Are you a professional looking to immigrate legally to the United States? Today we're going to talk about one of the best options to apply directly to a U.S. permanent residency, a green card, via the EB-2 National Interest Waiver. I'm attorney Carlos Colombo, and today we're going to be discussing what are the advantages of applying under the EB-2 National Interest Waiver, and what are the requirements for you to qualify for this great option. The EB-2 National Interest Waiver changed dramatically in 2017, opening a way for people to immigrate directly as a green card holder without the need of having a sponsor. That is one of the best advantages of the EB-2. So let's talk about those. Number one, typically, for you to obtain a green card, you either need a family member or a company that is willing to sponsor you. The EB-2 National Interest Waiver does not require that you have a U.S. sponsor, a company that petitions for your green card. So that's advantage number one. Advantage number two of the EB-2 National Interest Waiver is that you don't need to make an investment. There are investor visas, but the EB-2 relies solely on you as a professional and your accomplishments as that professional. And number three, it is a much faster way for most to immigrate legally as a green card holder. Most applications for green cards through sponsorships take 2 years or longer. The EB-2 is a much shorter way. And finally, of course, you as a professional, your spouse, and your children under 21 will all obtain a green card through this process. I will encourage you to share in the link below your curriculum, your resume. We can do a free analysis of your profile in order to see if you qualify for this great option under the EB-2. We represent all kinds of professionals, engineers, people in technology, people in medicine, education, accounting. So don't think that your profession may or may not qualify. All kinds of professionals can qualify for an EB-2 National Interest Waiver. So we look forward to hearing from you and helping you analyze this great option to immigrate legally to the United States.
If you were born in another country but are living here in Qatar, don't skip this video. You left your country and worked hard in hopes of making a better living, right? But now you find yourself struggling to make ends meet and live that comfortable dream lifestyle. Be honest, deep down you know it's true. Your job doesn't pay enough and you just don't know what to do? Well, allow me change that. Let me offer you something to help turn things around. Right now you can gain full access to a professional stock market trading course 100% for free. In this course, you will learn beginner and advanced strategies alike that will jumpstart your journey towards becoming a trading professional. Listen, if you want to make it big, you need to have a timeless and valuable skill. But this opportunity will run out in the next few moments, so the choice is all yours. Just click below to join now for free.
By the way, as we understand it, Leicestershire are unchanged from that defeat at Lancashire. In a sense, surprising because they got beaten so heavily, but because it's such a short turnaround, it would be strange to change the team.
And it's interesting you mentioned that transition between playing county championship cricket and T20 Blast cricket. Just how challenging is that to get ready for the T20 Blast within the space of less than a week?
Well, if you think about it, one form of the game, which, by the way, they should have finished on Sunday, in a sense, they were slightly fortunate that they got absolutely hammered, but they have to change their mentality immediately when they're playing red ball cricket to the longer form of the game to the shorter form. But I'll ban back to you, Connor, because you've got the head coach there.
I have indeed. I've got Paul Nixon with me. Paul Nixon, good evening.
Good evening, Connor. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yourself?
Brilliant. Looking forward to tonight. Gorgeous night. Crowd's buzzing already. Yeah, excited. That's what T20 is about, isn't it?
It's a perfect night for T20 cricket, it seems.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, we're looking for a big comeback from last night's performance. Yeah, we've got a lot of guys who are hurting, and it's time to go and enjoy ourselves and go and play some proper cricket.
And with a home support in front of you, which we'll touch on in a few moments' time. But first, just to confirm, unchanged side from that side which lost to Lancashire yesterday. Just explain the reasons behind that.
Yeah, listen, you know, there's no adverse reactions. We've trusted the guys to go and play, and this game's about trust. You know, we have bad days in the office. We had a bad day. We learned a lot from it. We stick to our game plans. We know what we do well. We're going to go and do it better this game. So we just trust people. That's what it's about.
And of course, how do you reflect upon that defeat against Lancashire? And how do you get ready in the space of 24 hours for what is another challenging test against Birmingham?
Yeah, some of the guys got home a bit later last night. We had a nice debrief chat after the game. A lot of good reflecting individually about their options, about the pitch. Yeah, you know, we don't want to give too much away, but, you know, it's some great learnings. When you don't do so well, you learn a lot from that. And, you know, it's about character now. So we know the numbers, we know the dimensions here, we know the numbers at the wicket. The pitch looks, it's quite a dry pitch. It's been prepared a long time. So I think it's a good toss to win, and I think it'll get a little bit slower and lower later on. It's the older side of the square, down on the, you know, near the square leg scoreboard. So I think it's a good toss to win. Runs on the board, a bit of scoreboard pressure, and I think the odd one might keep a little bit later.
And you've got your new boy playing for you in front of the home crowd for the first time.
Yeah, Naseem Shah, special man, very gifted individual, brilliant wrist, brilliant attitude to cricket, and you know, his class is what we need. And you know, early wickets in a power play is crucial. You know, Lancashire did it to us last night. You watch around the county circuit, wickets in a power play is massive. You know, if you get 3 wickets in a power play, it's huge. But saying that, we feel that, you know, we've got, you know, good variation throughout the whole bowling unit, and it's time to just, you know, you look for performances, match-winning performances from your players, and we didn't have that last night. I think 155, 150, 155 last night would have been a great score to put Lancashire under pressure with early wickets, but we've got to do that tonight against the Bears. We know now, we're in the rhythm of it now. That was our first game. You get the pace of it. You can have as many internal matches and centre wicket scenarios as you can, but matches are what it's all about, and yeah, we're looking forward to getting going again.
Is it almost, after a disappointing defeat at Old Trafford yesterday, that you put that out of the system and almost start your T20 Blast campaign again in front of a home crowd?
Yeah, listen, we pride ourselves on every single session we have, whether it's in the nets, whether it's a centre wicket scenario, or whether it's a game. It's just working out processes non-stop. I think perhaps a big game against a big side, we knew we had to bring our A game. Tough when you haven't had, you know, weeks of practice, but that's about being professional. That's where we grab time in 4-day games to go and hit some balls and bowl, you know, Yorkers, wide holes, slow balls, good bounces, and the variations. So yeah, listen, we're here now. We're in front of a home crowd. We finished so well last year. We've got a great vibe here at Grace Road, and Upton Sill Candy Ground's buzzing tonight, which is a lovely night for it. So it's time for us now. Yeah, they've got some good players, but we know we've got a fantastic side, and it's time to go and really commit. We've got to be clear with our plans. We've got to commit, really commit.
Paul Nixon, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you after the game. That's the head coach, Paul Nixon, joining us here on BBC Radio Leicester on 104.9 FM DAB and via BBC Sounds. At 7 o'clock, though, we're going to go onto the BBC Sport website and app. That's because the legend for this, Herder White, is presenting his last show. You'll be able to hear that on 104.9 FM DAB and via BBC Sounds. By the way, if you're after your football fix, of course, a massive weekend for Leicester City as they rampant Premier League survival, you can now download the When You're Smiling podcast. Owen Palmer-Aitken joined by John Bennett, the BBC World Service reporter, for a full preview of that encounter. You can also hear from the City boss, Dean Smith. That's now available on BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts from. Richard, if I come back to you, Paul Nixon there talking about the home crowd. Just how important is nights like this for Leicestershire as a club? Because financially, it will have its benefits most certainly.
Oh yeah, no, it's massive financially. Most of the counties, maybe not all, but most of the smaller counties that aren't test match venues depend for the massive majority of their income that they generate, not from the ECB, on the T20 and crowds like this and on beer sales and things like that. So it is really important to make a good start here, because it affects the playing budget for next year, things like that. So it's a long-term picture, but it is vital, absolutely vital.
And it allows you to bring in your starlets like Naseem Shah.
It does. I mean, there's often individual sponsors for those sort of one-off. He's only here for 3 games, remember, this is his second game, and then Naveen comes back. So it will, to a certain extent, those are one-off events which sometimes get individual sponsors, but it does. It gives the likes of Paul Nixon a bigger playing budget, and it then can accommodate someone a bit special like Naseem.
Going back to Naseem, I mean, you could be forgiven at his age to feel a bit nervous. He's going into a new country, new surroundings, a new, domestic cricket scene to get used to. But with his CV already, it seems that that's not going to be the case.
No, I don't think these boys do nerves, to be quite honest. They've been playing in front of vast crowds since they were teenagers, 14. Well, some of them still are teenagers. But someone like Naseem is used to playing in front of 100,000 in Mumbai and places like that. So this is probably quite small fry by his standards. But he'll want to do well. He'll want to do well because you never quite know how the franchise system is going to develop. He maybe wants a gig in the 100 at a later stage, something like that. So he'll really want to do well.
And there's several famous Pakistan players which have played for Leicestershire in this competition and have succeeded for Leicestershire in this competition. I remember Abdul Razak, 11, 12 years ago?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a really honourable tradition, and they tend to do pretty well here. Pitches are good, obviously, and they like that. So, but obviously the local sport as well makes a big difference, So, yeah, hopefully he'll live up to that great tradition.
Adam, in some ways, does this open up an interesting debate about Leicestershire's recruitment policy as a whole?
Well, what I think you can say is that it is much better than it has been. For them to be able to recruit somebody like Naseem Shah on such short notice tells you that it is much better. They have much better relationships with agents and with players around the world than they used to. That was a key complaint over the past couple of years, that they didn't get their international recruits right, because they need to win you 3 or 4 games over the course of the T20 Blast, and that wasn't the case for them in recent years. That has been a problem for them. In terms of Naveen, look, the problem is, you have seen over the past couple of days Jason Roy cancelling his England contract to play T20 cricket in America. That's what you're dealing with at the moment in terms of T20 cricket. Can you blame Naveen for wanting to stay in the IPL and play his cricket there? And his team did well enough, and he excelled in that team in the IPL, which is probably the Premier League of franchise cricket, to be able to stay out there, earn more money. This won't be as much money as he earns here, and it is more prestigious. So, yes, you can praise and grumble, but really it's a scheduling problem, that they overlap with the end of the IPL, this competition, rather than Leicestershire's recruitment problem.
I tell you what, in some ways, because he's performed so well in the IPL over recent weeks, Leicestershire will be looking for, maybe they might be able to get able to keep hold of him in the next seasons, potentially.
Yeah, and he will struggle. Literally, in terms of Naveen, he took 4 wickets in the knockout game in the Eliminator the other night. His prestige has excelled immensely. Leicestershire will struggle to get him next year, that's for certain. What they hopefully can offer him is an amazing place to come and play, somewhere that he trusts and plays regularly in. But he will be charging a few more pounds, I would suggest, next year as a result of doing so well in the IPL. Leicestershire pick these hidden gems. They find these people. It is, I hate to use this phrase, but it is what it's like. Those listeners who have watched Moneyball, the film with Brad Pitt, about finding underrated players on the cheap who have great stats. That's where Naveen was found, basically on a statistics database. And because he's done well for Leicestershire and in other places, in smaller franchise crickets, he's been boosted up right to the IPL, to the very top of the game, and has excelled. So it is a real success story. Naveen has done brilliantly to get there, but this might be the last season we see him. I could be wrong there, but it could be the last season we see him.
And it's credit, of course, to those people behind the scenes here at Leicestershire as well.
Yes. It has been. Dan Weston, I don't think works for the club anymore. He was their statistics person who found some of their gems, and they don't have the resources, Connor. They don't have the same resources as bigger counties like Birmingham/Warwickshire, who have a lot more money to spend, have a bigger ground, have greater access to players as well. Leicestershire have to find these diamonds in the rough, and they have done a relatively good job of it. And you look down that batting lineup today, and you see a much stronger batting lineup. It's where the wickets come from that's the problem. But under Claude Henderson, since he has become director of cricket, certainly this season, their recruitment has been much better, and they are finding players on the cheap that are allowing them to compete with the rest of the teams in the division.
It's fascinating that you mentioned Claude Henderson's name there, because that's someone I want to touch upon. I know we heard from him on the Talking Foxes podcast, which is now available on BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts from. How much credit does he deserve?
Well, I think the problems of last year were possibly down to some of his recruitment, but the successes of this year have possibly been down to his recruitment as well. So it has been a mixed bag. He has certainly, I think, taken the stress off Paul Nixon, who was dealing with a lot of contract issues, and didn't want to do that. He wanted to coach. So the fact that he is now focused entirely on coaching, he's phoning the agents all the time and dealing with that is a huge positive. I think it's taken him a few years to adjust over what Leicestershire needed, what worked, but he appears, and we're only a few months into the season, a few weeks into the season, it appears to have been improved this season. Of that there is no doubt. But it's just part of, I think, of a wider development and improvement of the club as a whole. Coming here, I've been coming here every game since 2019, and I've seen an improvement. You come to the match day experience here, it is better. The food is better, the drink is better. It feels like a more professional setup. It doesn't feel like a small county setup in the same way that it used to 4 or 5 years ago. And so Claude Henderson has been part of the improvement, but this whole match day experience has been improved because Leicestershire have sort of got their act together, really.
It's BBC Radio Leicester live at Grace Road for T20 Blast action as Leicestershire Foxes versus the Birmingham.
Ability.
For the Foxes, I tell you what, this evening.
Well, they have been the two last couple of years, and they've made a really Paul Nixon. It is a hybrid pitch. Might not be as helpful to Callum as the pitch was at New Road at Worcester, but even so, he sort of makes things happen with the ball. Exerts a little bit of pressure, and I wouldn't be surprised if he bowls the first over.
Colin Ackerman leading out Leicestershire Foxes here at Grace Road, their second home game of this T20 Blast campaign. They're still searching for their first win. They won the toss and they've decided to field. We'll keep you updated throughout the evening what happens in the Roses matchup at Headingley as Yorkshire take on Lancashire, and also that match between Sussex and Essex in the T20 Blast South group. But our main focus this evening is on this match in Ayleston. It's Leicestershire versus Derbyshire in the company of Richard Ray and Adam Whitty.
Thank you very much, Connor. Yes, welcome to Grace Road. Leaden skies above. It's a chilly summer day today as we enter the first day of June. And Leicestershire and Derbyshire looking for their first win of this campaign. Derbyshire haven't won at all this season. Both have lost their opening 3 matches in the T20 Blast. But Leicestershire will be boosted big time by the number 78 stood in front of us, the only man without a hat on, the only man who probably is freezing like nothing else today. He's back from 47 degree temperatures to what, about 10 here in the centre of Leicester. He's a very brave man, though. He's still got his T-shirt on. So Callum Parkinson will start us off. Louis Rees and Hyder Ali, the batters, and he bowls to Rees first up, and his glance down towards fine leg, and it's a wide. I thought it had hit the pads there, or hit the hip of Rees, but it was given as a wide as it went down to Rishi Patel. So Parkinson bowls. This is a slower delivery. There's a bit of spin on that. It is a used pitch, but gets a little bit of spin on that. Does Callum Parkinson. Top wicket taker so far. 5 wickets. Best economy 2 as he tosses this one up. Swept leg before wicket appeal and out. It looked plumb from up here, and Parkinson wheels away once again. What a start. Rees head dips. And he shakes his head as he walks off the field, but it was a big appeal, an immediate appeal, and Leicestershire strike first and strike early. Rees gone for a duck. Derbyshire are 1 for 1.
Yeah, awful shot, actually. Yes, you've got to be aggressive early on, but sweeping across the line in that way on a pitch that's already shown there's perhaps just something there. Well, it was a poor choice, poor decision, obviously, by Louis Rees, and huge for Leicestershire. An early wicket, always helpful.
But now in comes, it's not Wayne Madsen, is it? I don't think. Who's going to come out? I was expecting it to be Madsen. He's played at number 3 in the previous games, but maybe because the wicket fell so early. It's Wood who has come out onto the field. Tom Wood as the number 3. And I'm just looking. This might be one of his first. This might be one of the first games of the season that he's had so far.
In this competition, certainly. They've already started to make changes, Derbyshire.
Yeah, this is his first appearance for the 29-year-old. So Parkinson then, what a start for Leicestershire. He comes in now, he's up to the wicket, he bowls, and this is an outside edge played down towards third man, where Patel is fielding to the right-handed Wood, but there's an overthrow there, which dribbles through to Lilly, and so they're able to scamper through for a single. That's where you've got to try and manage. There was no run there, but they're trying to manage sort of roughing up the ball, aren't they, to try and get it as soft as early as possible. So the 2 fielders in the power play in the opening 5 overs, when only 2 players can be out on the boundary. One at deep mid-wicket, that's Aaron Lilly. And then we've got a long on 2 down the ground opposite the hospitality tent. Floodlights on already, just after 6:30 on BBC Radio Leicester. As Parkinson comes in, he bowls. It's defended by Hyder Ali this time, the Pakistan international. One of their overseas players, not making the impact you'd expect an overseas player to make. 12 runs in 3 innings so far.
This is not what you want.
He stands very tall, raised bad as Parkinson comes in and bowls a straight delivery, and it's glanced away on the leg side, splitting those 2 fielders out on the boundary. They're going to come through for 2, nicely timed, because it was too far away from those 2 fielders on the boundary. And Aaron Lilly isn't happy about something. He's chuntering as he walks backwards towards the deep mid-wicket boundary.
Hyder Ali ran across at Harry Swindle's there and deflected the ball away from him. He made his ground anyway, but Aaron likes a chunter, doesn't he?
4 for 1 as Parkinson bowls driven. It's an ugly drive straight to cover where it'll be fielded, and there will be no run. That's the end of the first over. What a start for Leicestershire under grey skies in a relatively sedate Grace Road so far. 4 for 1, 1 over gone. Hyder Ali on 2, Wood on 1.
Yeah, Leicestershire with their bright green kit blending into the outfield here, which is still nice and green. I was watching the players practicing their sort of high ball catching just beforehand, and the white ball into the dark grey cloud was almost impossible to pick up. So conditions are not easy out there, but hopefully for Naveen or Hack they will be helpful. Afghan going to bowl from the pavilion end. First over, first ball of the season for the Foxes.
Do you reckon he'll do something? He'll bowl one of his variations. I bet he will.
Just about every delivery he bowls is a variation, isn't he? He doesn't often just sort of look to hit the top of off stump with a standard quickish delivery. But we'll see what happens. Tom Lungley is the umpire standing, former Derbyshire player, of course. I think he has the best bowling figures for Derbyshire against Leicestershire in T20, 5 for something or other. Not very many. And he's standing at the pavilion end. Neil Mallander, the umpire, standing at the Bennett end. Naveen, with the men out at wide, third man and mid wicket. goes running in and bowls thick inside edge. It's going to run down to fine leg for 4. It ran between Wood and the stumps. There was that little bit. It was very full. He stayed in his crease. It did swing back in a little bit. In fact, probably just that fraction too much, really. Took the inside edge and between the stumps and the batsman. Fortune for Tom Wood, who moves on to 5.
It's good positive signs for Leicestershire so far, although it looks like that pitch and the conditions have a little bit of nibble in them.
Looks quite green, doesn't it? The real bit has been allowed to grow. In goes Naveen, edged. Oh, and that's going to be 4 more, just wide of the diving Swindles to his right. Went through about where first slip would have been standing, maybe 1.5 slips. It was close, and Swindles has his hands, his gauntleted hands on his head. Well, could have been a wicket with the first 2 balls that Naveen has bowled. He looks fairly philosophical as he walks back to his mark. He has in fact conceded 8 from his first 2 balls, but incredibly unlucky on both occasions. In he goes. Wood on 9. Naveen bowls to him, it swings in, he jams it back out down towards mid-on, should be close, but no, the throw from Will Davis was a little bit laboured. He picked up very low. It bounced quite slowly towards Davis, in fact, who's actually one of the better fielders on the Leicestershire side. He dived and underarmed the ball at the stumps, rather shoveled the ball at the stumps, missed them. So Wood, after a little bit of hesitation, picks up his single. He moves into double figures on to 10, 13 for 1, brings Haider down to face Naveen. He is an international, Haider Ali, but it's just a couple, isn't it, that he's played ODIs
2
anyway.
ODIs,
Yeah.
2 T20s too.
He's still a young man, just 22. But yes, I'm sure he would have liked to have done better than his 12 runs in 3 innings with a best of 11, so presumably the other one was 1-0. The other scores were 1-0. Bright green fluorescent boots he has on us. Naveen goes in, bowls to him. He plays a pleasant on drive, checks the shot slightly. There is still that lovely little bit of swing Naveen gets with that full delivery back into the right-handers. Runs out to Davis at mid-on, and there's no run. Ground beginning to fill up a little bit. I think they were hopeful that they'd get roughly a similar crowd to the first home game of the season, but the weather, as you said, isn't half as pleasant, and it's a Thursday evening. It was a good atmosphere in that first game. Against the Bears, they brought a few, in fairness. In goes Naveen and bowls again. It swings back in. Haider jams it out off the back foot into the offside. Rishi Patel is the first of Leicestershire's fielders to get there. He takes his single, moves on to 3, 14 for 1.
You can already see the difference, can't you? You can already see the variation, the difference. It's probably, to be fair, you know, they have played against the informed teams in the division, and so the batters will feel a little bit more comfortable in the other teams Leicestershire have played, but you can already see he's making the batsmen so much more uncomfortable than the previous 3 games for Leicestershire.
Absolutely, rolling a really good length. Naveen is in and bowls on off stump. Wood can only poke it out into the offside and then hold his bat up to Haider. Say no run there. Naveen is tossed his sweater by Tom Longley. He'll consider himself, I suspect, fairly unfortunate, and he was fairly unfortunate. Could easily have dismissed Wood with each of those first 2 deliveries of the over. As it is, after 2 overs, the Falcons are 14 for 1.
And arguably, as you say, they will feel the scoreboard tells a completely different story to how things have been going for them so far. Callum Parkinson will continue listening to live cricket on the BBC, on BBC Radio Leicester. As Parkinson comes in, he's up to the wicket, he bowls, and this is hit hard, high up in the air, and that's 6. I can see Ackerman down there at long on, not even bothering with that. That is massive. Has that hit the roof? It's the television gantry.
It did hit the roof of the gantry. So
there is somebody up there filming for the stream who would have been taking cover rather drastically. That's one of the biggest 6s down the ground that I've seen here in quite a few years. Monstrous from Haider Ali.
And it wasn't a sort of particularly violent looking shot. It just sort of stroked it, but oh my goodness, it came out of the middle.
Still, it's only just started to drop by the time it got to the TV gantry. Parkinson, how he respond? He drops it. He
brilliant.
drops it in. It's a full toss, and that's brilliantly stopped. Is that Mulder there?
It is.
At
Outstanding
point,
fielding.
diving to his right, fantastically well. You just see the international quality of somebody like that, driven hard from that low full toss. As Parkinson comes in, bowls, and Hyder Ali, I think, has seen enough of this and is trying to really start aggressively hitting out, backs away and carves down the ground towards long on, where Will Davis is fielding. Parkinson, short, blonde hair, almost a buzz cut. Moves in towards us now from the Bennett end. He bowls. It's a straight delivery, slower one as well. Just pulled back a little bit, and it's glanced towards deep mid-wicket, and they will only go for one. There's decent fielding from Livee, who charges in, throws it in, whips it with his right hand, and it's 22 for 1. Leicestershire against Derbyshire in the T20 Blast. Both of these teams looking for their first win in the competition. What will be for both of them the fourth time of asking. Parkinson bustles up now, bowls and bowled him. Ali goes for the sweep again and is caught out. This time it was quicker and flatter from Parkinson, and Ali slams his bat against his pad. Parkinson wheels away once again in celebration. The double fist bump, and Leicestershire have a second wicket, as does Parkinson. It is 22 for 1, 22 for 2, I should say. Ali goes for 10.
Yep, the sweep again, proving the downfall of a Falcons batsman. Ali will be hugely disappointed about that, having middled that 6 in particular, and actually the following shot that Mulder did so well to field in the covers. But poor choice of shot again, having got his 6 in the over. This is what Paul Nixon was sort of talking about to a certain extent with some of Leicestershire's batting so far this season, just sometimes being content having got your runs in the over just to push one or work it around a little bit, and lost his head a little bit there. Big swing, and Parkinson picks up his second wicket, and this is what we were saying to Connor about the importance of Parkinson to the side in this competition.
And the fact that already I think Naveen has already had an impact. He squeezed and put the other batters under pressure. They felt they needed to hit out at the other end. Parkinson comes in, tosses this one up. The new batter is Madsen, who I thought was going to come in at number 3, but he's coming in at number 4. He glances a single down to mid-wicket, and that is the end of another successful over for Leicestershire. 23 for 2, the pressure telling, and even though Derbyshire's run rate isn't that bad at all, really, they're going at 7.7 and over in this power play. They've lost 2 wickets, under the pump. But their main man, Richard, has come in. Madsen, who is the 3rd top scorer in the competition so far, 168 runs in a losing team, 57 or 46 in the last game in that defeat to Northampton. 3 50s in 3 games. He's the key man.
They've made an immediate change. They've taken Naveen off and brought Vian Mulder on. I must admit, with a new man, particularly Wayne Madsen, who's made so many runs against Leicestershire over the years, I might have given Naveen another over against him, to be quite honest. Let's see what Vian Mulder can do. From the pavilion, air bowls very straight. Madsen plays it firmly down into the ground, bounces back up to the South Africa international all-rounder, who tosses it to Naveen.
England finishing the day on 152 for 1 in the first day of their first test, or the only test against Ireland. Duckett 60 not out, Pope 29 not out.
Which is almost level pegging, isn't it?
20 behind.
120, is it? Mulder is in, bowled, slightly shorter, played with an angled bat off the back foot by Madsen. Runs it out to Rahan Ahmed, who's at backward point on the edge of the circle, obviously on the edge of the circle. Will Davis starting to windmill his arms. Nick Welsh is out in front of the yellow bucket seats in the popular stand, the Upton Steel stand alongside the meet. As Mulder is in, Madsen is driving most pleasantly for 4. Again, foot movement wasn't exaggerated, shall we say that? There was foot movement. He didn't sort of step out or step right back, but timed it beautifully. And he knows, he's played here so often, Wayne Madsen, that if you beat the infield early, especially down this side of the ground, then you are going to get 4 almost certainly. And all Ackerman could do was turn at mid-off and jog after the ball. Lovely shot from Wayne Madsen. Mulder is into his compatriot Bowles, clipped off his hip down to the boundary for 4 more. Poor ball really from Vian Mulder. Welsh is at deep mid-wicket. He was a good 40-50 yards away. Parkinson is at short fine leg. There is a big gap behind square on that leg side, and Madsen exploited it very nicely indeed. 31 for 2. Couple of boundaries, consecutive boundaries for Madsen. 9 off 5 for him. Got to be a bit careful, Leicester. If they can pick up one more wicket in the power play, well, we know the stats. It'll make them the favourites as Madsen waits, gets a short ball lobbed up into the air off a top edge, but just wide of Parkinson by Madsen. Welsh can run round because it, as I say, was lobbed and then it bobbled gently out towards the electronic scoreboard. Parkinson not so very far from being able to dive to get his hands underneath that as it was. Madsen picks up a couple, moves on to 11, 33 for 2.
Madsen looks a man in form, doesn't he? That was a sublime cover drive and then a very simple dispatching of a poor ball, but he's come in and he's like he's faced 50 balls already.
Mulder is in bowls to him. Fuller, but again waiting, to pushing it through the on side, slightly wide of Naveen, who picks up and shies at the stumps, nonetheless athletically misses them. And Madsen, who keeps the strike with that single, had made his ground anyway. 34 for 2 off 4, so 11 off Vian Mulder's first over. And unlike the first over of Naveen or Hack, there were sort of balls that probably deserved to go for 4, to be quite honest.
You're listening to Leicestershire against Derbyshire, T20 Blast Cricket on BBC Radio Leicester. We're going to be with you all evening tonight on FM 104.9, DAB frequencies, as well as the BBC Sport website and app, BBC Sounds, your smart speaker, as we bring you live T20 cricket. Derbyshire 34 for 2 at the end of the 4th over, and it'll be Will Davis to bowl his first over from the Bennett end, running in towards us now. He's got a bustling run up, elbows out, he's up to the wicket, he bowls a slower delivery first up, which is clipped away on the leg side by Madsen, who's already overtaken Wood. 13 from 8 his score. Leicestershire in their green stripy tops, dark green and light green, with light green trousers and the light green snapback, as I believe the kids call them these days. Davis running in towards us now. He's past the umpire. He bowls a straight delivery, which again is clipped, this time on off middle stump by Wood, down squarer towards the fielder out there. Is it Budinger who has fielded that? Yes, it is, and he launches that in right.
Hutton, Finn the Hudson Prentice, Oliver Carter, Tamal Mills, once of Essex, and Henry Crocombe.
Indeed. And I don't think, most important in news, I don't think we've given details of the toss and who's going to bat.
Which I now leave to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure if I can remember. I think it's Sussex won the toss and, unsurprisingly, will field. Is that right?
You're right.
Thank you.
I just wanted to test whether you're paying attention or whether you're cunningly passing me the rugby ball.
Nothing changes, you see. I've been commentating with Paul for well over 20 years, and he just loves stitching me up. But, I'm pretty sure that Sussex won the toss and will field, and so we'll see Adam... presumably that was in batting order, although these things are a little bit fluid according to the way the game or the innings goes, but presumably we'll see Adam Rossington and Dan Lawrence opening the batting. When we were past this team sheet of Essex, there was a bit in brackets which said, which later on in the Essex innings, assuming they lose a few wickets, which will be of use to or confusion depending which way you take it for those watching on the stream. It says Paul Walter will be playing in Adam Rossington's spare kit. So, so if Rossington's still there when Walter comes to the wicket, it's going to be distinctly confusing, except that one's about a foot taller than the other, so they should still be distinguishable.
Well, I never look at the number on Walter's back, partly because it's too high up for me to see, but also because, you know, when you see someone who's as big as Paul Walter at 6'7.5", you don't have to look too hard to see who it is. Perhaps if you just hand your mic over to Andrew Rayburn, because he is our host here at Sussex by the Sea, a very good one as well. Andrew, great to see you.
And you, Paul, thank you very much. Yes, as you've been discussing, wonderful weather on the Sussex coast. Virtually not a cloud in the sky. Certainly not one that I can see anyway.
And win over Surrey, that has got to be a bit of a highlight.
Absolutely, yes. I think for Sussex fans, certainly. I think any win over Surrey in any competition is gratefully received. And a fantastic batting effort, really, when you look at certainly the efforts of Tom Alsop, who ended unbeaten with 51, and Michael Burgess, of course, who made 48 from 28 balls, 5 fours and 2 sixes in that innings, to win it with a ball to spare, just getting to that target of 149. Really cracking batting effort, but you can't do it without having had the bowlers to set it up for you. And it'll be interesting to see. They spread the wickets around really against Surrey, but Ravi took a few. But
yes, I was going to say Ravi didn't come off with a bat, but he did, I think, get 3 for 21 in about 3 overs.
Absolutely,
he's so useful with the ball.
Absolutely, he is. I mean, he came on sort of late in the piece, if you like, and he's someone that, as we all know from watching him over many years, provides, particularly in this format, it's quite difficult to get away. He did concede one maximum, but he's quite a difficult, tricky little medium pacer to get off the square, really. So very useful in this format, and of course his captaincy is what Sussex are relying on in the field.
Yep, no, I'm a huge fan of Ravi, always has been, and he certainly had everything and then some to do with Essex's only ever triumph in the tournament back in 2019. He was moved down the order, which he resented, but in the end, typically of Ravi, he came round to the idea which was Simon Harmer's, because Simon wanted him to finish matches off. Ravi is a terrific judge. He's so cool under the pressure.
Absolutely, and of course it didn't, as you said, he didn't come off for him in the Surrey game, but he set Sussex up beautifully against Somerset in the first match, 88 not out. Of course, they couldn't quite finish the job on that occasion, but he certainly, it was a fantastic sort of brutal innings, that one, with 7 sixes involved as well. So they'll be looking for some of that tonight. He's down on the order as opening, so we'll see if that's. But it might be Clark and Alsop who open, but certainly Alsop has been, because Ali Orr is, just for Sussex listeners, Ali Orr is out of the side. Shadab Khan back in, so good to see Shadab Khan back in, because Shadab Khan and Nathan McAndrew had a collision in the outfield in the opening game, and both were sat out of the game against Surrey. So Nathan McAndrew not involved, but Shadab Khan is back. And the other change, so it's 2 changes, with Ollie Carter coming in for his first T20 game, and that's at the expense of the young leg spinner Archie Lenham.
And I must just ask you that with the Ashes starting a fortnight tomorrow, Stephen Smith, of course, has come down and played for Sussex. How have you assessed him?
It's an interesting one. He obviously felt he's fallen LBW 3 times in his innings. I'm not sure he was happy with any of them, but then again, which batsman is? He made a big score in the 3rd game. I think he made 3 and 30 or something in the first one. So he's not. It took him a little while to adjust. But what's quite interesting is that obviously Chideshwar Pujara made masses of runs for Sussex last season, and of course India had that hangover Test match against England, and the Pujara's form for Sussex in that match didn't really translate into runs in the Test match. So I don't think people were saying, "Oh, is it really right that Sussex are offering Steve Smith some warm up?" Well, it might have given some of the people like Ollie Robinson a chance to look at Smith a bit closer up, and so I don't know. It's I don't know if it'll have a bearing, but certainly he's not had a huge impact on the scorers, put it that way.
No, I think you've put that well. I have a suspicion, while people have been grumbling about Smith getting himself into practice by playing for Sussex, but it could all be a very cunning plan indeed to work out where his weakness is going to be. Well, the game is going to start here very shortly now, so we'll bring Dick back in for now. Look forward to Andrew rejoining us after 5 overs of the match. The news here down at Hove on a glorious summer's evening, and heaven knows summer's taken forever to arrive this year. In fact, I don't think spring ever did arrive. But Essex have been put into bat. Ravi Bopara is 1-0 up on the night in terms of having won the toss, and very shortly we will see the players enter the arena. Once again, the 2 teams, Essex, Rossington, Lawrence, as on the scorecard. We're not absolutely certain Lawrence is going to open. Das, Critchley, Walter, Cushy, who the other night batted much higher up in the order. We'll see if that's going to stay the way. Got a very good 34. Wesley, who does back down at number 7 in T20. Sams, Harmer, Snater and Cook. And Sussex are Clark, Bopara, the skipper, Allsop, Shadav Khan, Burgess, James Coles, Garton, Finn Hudson-Prentice, Ollie Carter on his T20 debut, Jamal Mills and Henry Crocombe. And we've got the crowd gradually filling up here, and I think it will do a lot more so. It's a lovely evening for it, albeit a little bit breezy. Should be a good game, Dick.
It should indeed. It usually is here. And the figures reflect that, really, because these 2 counties have met on 32 occasions in T20 cricket, and it's more or less even, Stevens. Sussex have won 17 and Essex have won 15. And similarly, further breakdown of how they achieved it, both won more or less equal number batting first or second, which doesn't seem to have made the difference that some people reckon it does. Essex overall, since T20 started, have won 55% of the games they've won batting second, whereas across, this is really geeky, isn't it? Whereas across all T20 matches that have been played, 52% of the matches have been won by the side batting first.
Well, there we are. Yes, yeah. I think we have to hand the geekiness to you there.
There'll be a written question paper at the end of this commentary.
So pay attention, everyone. Yeah, it's a super evening. I was walking down on the seafront, stopping in at the Lawns Cafe, and I said to the man, what are your milkshakes like? He said, unbeatable, and so I had a banana milkshake, which I have to say was very, very nice indeed. Always like to partake of the local specialities down here, and it is a thrilling sight, the seafront here, Dick.
It is. Yes, I mean, I live in Southend-on-Sea, so I'm used to seeing the seafront, but with all due respect to the Southend tourist board, Brighton, the front has certain aspects. For a start, Southend may have the longest pier, but Brighton has 2, albeit one is more or less a bird sanctuary. And of course it has this big thing that goes, I can't think of what it's called now, just a sort of rod that goes up in the to a great height. In fact, I'd really quite like it. I think it had a nickname of the donut because it sort of looks a bit like a donut, hence the nickname. And I'd quite like to go on that tomorrow morning if possible, but we'll see. It depends what time we get up. So yeah, it's a lovely town, lovely city. City. Both places are cities now, and And later on in this season, Essex are playing Lancashire at Blackpool, which I'm also covering, so I'll have had my share of seaside resorts, one way or another.
Well, yeah, I know you always like the seaside, and it is nice every now and then to go to a ground you've not been to before, and Blackpool would very much illustrate that. And you're doing the Blackpool game, I'm down for the game at Sedbergh, or Sedbergh, I'm never quite sure how.
Sedbergh, I think.
Right, Sedbergh, and that is right up in the, well, virtually in the Lake District, in fact. And Essex were due to play there last year, only for a filthy great thunderstorm to render the game having to be abandoned without a ball bowled before indeed 11 o'clock had got anywhere near to coming round. You hear an acceleration in the background noise, which tells us that the Sussex, who won the toss fielders, are now jogging out to take up their positions, and very shortly we will know exactly who is opening for Essex.
Yes, we will indeed. The only things we haven't told you, I think, is that the umpires are Mark Newell and Paul Baldwin. And, and as you say, they're about to start any moment. I'm pretty sure that's Rossington.
It is indeed. I think it probably is Dan Lawrence who's making his way out to join him.
Just had a information. Cushy is opening.
Oh, Cushy, in fact.
Thanks, George, very much.
Indeed. So Cushy opening, of course, he did the other night against Gloucester, got a very good 34. And, number 23, that is him all right. But Rossington will face the first ball. He just got 5, I think it was, on Tuesday. But the whole idea of T20 really is that different people will come up on different nights. I do think Essex have improved their technique in recent years by they used to lose too many wickets in the early overs. I'm probably setting them up to do so again here, but here's the first ball of the innings. And that's going to be 4 runs. It's down leg side and off the pad, 4 leg byes for starters.
And I'm just... The sun is reflecting. Oh, it's Garton bowling.
It's George Garton.
There are 2 scoreboards here, both of which are very good, but I think we'll certainly, for the first part of the match, I'm more inclined to use the one away to our left because the sun's not shining on that one. It's much clearer, but it doesn't give you as much information as the main scoreboard.
George Garton, a left arm over from the C end, in and bowls to Rossington. Full toss, and Rossington's hit this one, not where he was intending. He was looking to hit that much straighter, but it goes out to the man on the cover boundary for a single. So 2 balls gone. Essex off to a good start with 4 leg byes from the first ball and a single off the second. So 1 now to Rossington, and Feroz Cushy is in to face his first ball.
So there's still plenty of room for more people to come in at the far end. There's 2 sort of permanent temporary stands, if that's not a contradiction in terms. Well, it is, but they're not sort of permanent structures. But
Garton in again. Bowls to Cushy. Cushy pushes it to mid-off, sets off for a very quick single. And, if that had hit, it would have been close, but I think he was home. The important thing was he ran immediately, 6 for no wicket.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that Rossington did, though. I think he was a little bit... took him a little bit by surprise, but he made it in the end. There's a certain technique of running between the ball and the stumps without blatantly causing obstruction, but nonetheless making it a little bit more difficult for the fielder.
Garton to Rossington. That's a very pleasant stroke indeed. Just bring him the 1 run out to the cover boundary. Fieldsman down there in the shade. And that makes the score 7 for no wicket. 4 leg byes, 2 to Rossington, 1 to Cushy.
On a glorious evening, as we've been saying, and no reason to think it won't continue. It's literally a cloudless sky, but sometimes it's days like this that we are followed by really cold nights because there isn't any cloud cover.
No, that's right. I think it will go quite chilly later on. As here's the next ball, and that's been hit down the ground, probably for 6, just waiting for the signal. Up go the arms, and 6 it is indeed, beautifully picked up there by Feroz Cushy, and score moves along to 13 for no wicket. Cushy has 7. And Rossington 2, and certainly these two have the license to score as freely as they possibly can. Were a couple of wickets to fall, then I think we'd see Essex employ a slightly more conservative approach, but it's certainly paid off to date with 13 runs on the board after 5 deliveries. It was a handsome straight 6 from Cushy, who settles over his bat and sees Gartner coming in to complete the over. And that's a graceful shot, but straight to extra cover, and that's the dot ball there. So Essex complete the first over, having been put into bat, and are 13 for no wicket, of which Cushy has 7, Rossington 2, and the other 4 runs were leg byes.
The last ball, it was a bump ball, but I think 1 or 2 people in the crowd thought it was a catch, but it clearly bounced first. Understandably, they're almost bound to be Sussex supporters, and understandably they thought the wicket fall in the first over, but it was not to be. So, coming down the hill from the Cromwell Road end will be
Finn Hudson-Prentice.
Finn Hudson-Prentice, thank you. Now, if memory serves me right, former Derbyshire player?
Yep, that's correct.
Paul looked totally blank when I said that, but...
Yes, but I do anyway.
Well, that's true.
For obvious reasons.
Luckily, Andrew came to the rescue.
Saves anybody asking me questions.
And then, anyway, it was a dot ball. Again, in bowls. Or attempt to chop it down to third man, doesn't time it properly, chops it hard into the ground, and the keeper trots up a few paces and fields it. I mentioned in passing down the hill, for people who don't know this ground, it probably has a steeper slope than any other headquarters ground. But having said that, it's not excessive, but it's very noticeable indeed. As the next delivery is worked away backward of square on the onside, they'll go through for a comfortable single and no more. It was never going to be more than one there, sort of agreed single.
Yeah, good over so far, this from Hudson-Prentice. 2 dot balls, and even that, although it was comfortably played away off the pads by Rossington, but you'd always settle for conceding a single off any particular ball in the T20 game.
Cushy just had a word with Rossington before took his guard. No idea what that's about. None of our business, I suppose. Next delivery, also down the leg side and helped on its way really down backward of square, but again there's a man there patrolling that boundary, and they guess Joe goes through for a single. Bring Essex on to 14 without loss.
Good to see Cushy in the T20 side, because he played pretty well at times in the Championship last season in red ball cricket. I wouldn't want him relegated only to white ball cricket, but I'm very pleased to see he at least is in this.
Yes. And that's all well fielded. I was going to say that's well on its way to the boundary, but a superb bit of fielding there. Diving away to his right by the man at backward point. Unfortunately, we don't have scorecards, so we can't.
Might be George Gartner, actually, and it was a brilliant stop because it would have been 4 runs.
Yes. So a good over from Sussex so far. Essex 15 without loss. The next delivery, a little bit premeditated almost there, as Rossington came down the wicket a pace or 2 and nearly was found out, because in the end he mistimed it and squirted out on the onside. End of the over, the second over of the Essex innings, and they're 15 without loss, with Rossington on 3 and Cushy on 8, and the first ball of the day went down for 4 leg byes.
Well, that was a very fine over from Finn Hudson-Prentice. Rossington hasn't quite found his touch yet, and there is a cafe on the ground called Cow Corner, and that last ball was very much a Cow Corner shot, as he hadn't got to the pitch of the ball and in consequence heaved across the line. But we're about to see the third over of the innings start, and this ball is down leg side and absolutely has to be a wide. Just checking on who we've got a bowling change here. It's not Garton now.
Doesn't say on the scoreboard.
No, it doesn't, which is a little bit unhelpful. But the score, just checking with Andrew to see if he can enlighten us. Sorry? It's Henry Crocombe who's bowling. And this ball just comes off, I was going to say pad, but there must have been a bit of bat in that. They get a single. But after that very fine start with 13 off the first over, the runs have been somewhat harder to come by of late, with just 2 runs off the second over, bowled by Finn Hudson-Prentice. 16 for no wicket now on the board. Not so sure they've updated that last run, and there won't be a run off the next. There's a big shout here. It was clearly going down leg side, but nevertheless there is no run as the ball rebounds off Rossington's pads. Now Rossington, of course, got that fastest 50 of the 100 tournament last year, but he isn't quite in the touch tonight that he was on that occasion. And so far I think he's trying to hit the ball too hard, actually, Nick, before he's got his eye in. He stands waiting now from Crocombe. He's got hold of that one, but it may well be caught on the mid-wicket boundary. Ball's coming down, and fine catch taken. So there is the first wicket gone, and it has to be said, Rossington, who did at least get hold of that, but probably wishes he hadn't. 17 for 1. I was right in thinking that there should be one more on the scoreboard a moment ago. No run, obviously, off that, because it's caught on the mid-wicket boundary. And Essex lose their first wicket. It has to be said that from the few deliveries that Rossington faced, he really struggled with his timing tonight, didn't come to terms with the pace of the pitch at all, and when he did finally really get hold of the ball, even then it fell just short of going for 6, and he departs for 3. George Garton with the catch.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, it seemed to come out of the middle of the bat, but it just wasn't quite. Which, as I said earlier on before the match started, it's a big ground here, even with the ropes pulled in, which they invariably are for the T20 competition, especially when the TV cameras are here, which they're not tonight, we hasten to add, or not the commercial station anyway. But yes, so it brings to the crease Dan Lawrence,
who will now face Henry Crocombe up from the sea end. And Lawrence has hit his first ball for an enormous 6. It's gone clean over our heads.
We could hear it land on the roof.
Exactly. Clean over our heads, as so many things do with Dick and me. And, thanks for playing yourself in, Dan. I think must be the retort to that. And to be fair to Dan Lawrence, I mean, that was an absolutely fabulous pickup. And the score goes to 23 for 1. To hit the ball like that, first ball, really is quite a feat.
Yes. And the players and the umpires appear to be looking straight at us, but they're not actually. They're looking at over the top or to one side, seeing if anybody's going to get the ball back. And I think that one might be a new. Oh no, here it comes. It's just come back. It's just come back just as the umpire radios, I think, for another one. The old one comes back.
I think it must be pretty wet, because that surely went far enough to reach the sea. It was such an enormous hit. And Andrew's just going to give us the Sussex numbers, which is very helpful.
Oh,
Thank you, Andrew. Here is Crocombe in bowls, and this time Lawrence gets a wide in his favour as it went down leg side, so 24 for 1. And just making a note of these Sussex numbers.
Do you want me to commentate on this ball?
Yes, please do.
Down. Right, Crocombe moves in from up the hill from the sea end, bowls down the leg side, and Lawrence makes he goes across and chases it, and looking to play it through the off possibly, but still played it out on the leg side, and they go through for a single through to deep mid wicket, bringing the score on to 24 for 1. We're in the third over of the innings and of the match. And Crocombe just adjusting his field slightly. brings in the deep mid-wicket.
Thanks, Dick. So Crocombe is on his way. Thank you very much, Andrew, for that. As here is the next delivery. And that has cut that very sharply and taken Lawrence on the pad. They scoot through for a leg by. And that completes the third over. In fact, it was Cushy on strike to that one. The score 25 for 1 at the end of that over. 3 overs gone, 25 for 1. Lawrence with that massive 6 has 7. Cushy has 9. And Essex will be, well, they'll wish they hadn't lost Adam Rossington. But apart from that, we'll be pleased with the pairs. In fact, the two scoreboards differ, but I think the one away down left is probably the more likely to be right, saying it's 26 for 1.
Well, they both do now, don't they? As the next ball's played out on the offside. No addition to the score. Still Hudson Prentice bowling from the far end down a slight gradient.
Yes, I think it's a bit like the scoreboard situation at Chelmsford, Dick, where the main scoreboard is always updated before the one that we can see from the commentary window, which makes life a bit difficult.
Yeah, Hudson Prentice again moves in and goes down the wicket as the batsman and flails it down to third man. Whether or not that was exactly where he meant it is immaterial, really, but certainly tried to flail it through the offside, and it, as it comes down the hill, it accelerates, and yes, it always had 4 written all over it as soon as it cleared the infield.
Well, it's a fast-scoring ground, and we usually find the outfield is like greased lightning, so anything that doesn't go anywhere near a fieldsman is almost certainly going to go for 4.
Yes. Cushy again faces up to Hudson Prentice, and he hasn't got hold of that, but he's all right. It's he got it high on the bat, and it ballooned over the infield, but didn't make it to the outfielders, so it landed in no man's land between the two, and lives to fight another day. But that's all part of this version of the game. 30 for 1.
Yeah, he's taking risks, Cushy. Probably won't last forever, but he's doing the job for the side and trying to exploit the power play. And this is the 4th over, so 2 more overs of the power play after this one.
Yeah, Hudson Prentice pushing the man at mid-wicket back, and therefore he has to bring in somebody else inside the circle, the long leg. And this time Cushy has swung that away for 6. Really where I think he was looking to hit the preceding delivery and didn't time it properly. This time, there's no doubt whatever, that was out of the meat of the bat, the sweet spot. And 6 more go on to the Essex score, bringing them on to 36 for 1, and Cushy's personal tally is 21.
38 for 1, I think we can even have.
38, it says, sorry. You're right. As that's worked away on the onside as well into a large gap. Well, no, it's not. Anyway, they picked up a single.
Yeah, but Para misfielded, actually.
Yeah, just lost it for a moment.
Not that it cost another run, but he was actually interested in having a shy at the stumps at the bowler's end, but didn't pick it up cleanly, so it became irrelevant. 39 for 1, Cushy 22. Dan Lawrence, for the first time, will now face Finn Hudson Prentice.
Yeah, Lawrence on 7 off 2 deliveries, the first of which he dispatched for 6, and the second for a single. And the third for another single as he just nudges that quietly on the onside down to just forward of square on the onside. They go through for a single. So 4 overs gone of the allotted 20, and Essex are 40 for 1, the one being Rossington, caught by Garton on the deep mid-wicket boundary off the bowling of Crocombe for 3 when the score was 17. And now in very quick time, Lawrence and Cushy have taken it on to 40.
Yep, I think Essex will be pretty happy with that score, but they know on this fast-scoring ground that they must glean every possible run they can.
Yes. As it's Crocombe to continue, and it's worked away on the onside, just a sort of jab of the bat. And well, normally I think, although these figures sort of increase every year, but they used to say that after the first power play of 6 overs, if the side has reached 50 for only up to 2 wickets down, they've had a good start. Well, Essex should reach 50. They've got another 11 deliveries in which to do that.
Crocombe bowls.
And that's pulled away, and it bounces just short of the man at where Rossington was caught, and they go through for a comfortable single.
I would just gently point out, I do the overs from the C end, and you're doing the top end.
You're quite right. You're quite right. And the only thing I'm good at is grovelling, and I grovel in a policy.
Well done. That's a lovely piece of grovelling. As Crocombe comes up again to bowl to Dan Lawrence. Sends bat raised, and he's hit this. Didn't really time it, and a very good shout of no from Lawrence, who could see Cushy beginning to advance towards him, and Lawrence realised he'd hit it too well, even though he didn't really time it, for there to be a single straight to mid-on. The score is 42 for 1. We're in the 5th over. At the end of this over, we'll bring Andrew Rayburn in to join me. 42 for 1, and yeah, I think Essex would settle for this. I think the important thing in the power play, Dick, is not to lose more than 2 wickets, as the next delivery from Crocombe is a wide. It's I think the 3rd one he's conceded. 43 for 1.
Yeah. So there's still plenty of room for... There's one of those 2 stands at the far end that is probably only half populated. The other one, 2/3, maybe 3/4. So there's room if anybody wants to come in.
Always a good atmosphere in the ground here at Hove, and here is the ball nicely played by Lawrence to the man coming off the mid-wicket boundary, who is George Garton, and the score goes to 44 for 1, of which Lawrence has just moved into double figures with that single, and Cushy has 23, which is the number on his back.
As inevitably the seagulls circle around.
So with the wide, still a couple of deliveries left in this over. Hasn't been a boundary in it yet. 4 have come from the first 4 balls, but that includes 1 for the wide. Crocombe bowls and digs this one in short. It's very well fielded at backward point, but they can get through for the single to Cushy, moves up to 24, 45 for 1.
There again, I think the crowd thought that was possibly a drop catch, but it was chopped hard into the ground, and fielder didn't field it particularly cleanly, but it didn't really matter.
So Sussex playing in light blue shirts, and Essex in navy blue. And last ball of the over, Crocombe bowls, and that ball's nicely played through the offside, and that's a class shot for 4, and takes Lawrence along to 14. No real effort in the shot, although he did put the foot down the track, but beautifully timed. It's all about timing rather than effort. 49 for 1, 5 overs gone.
And you want me to make room for...
If you would, yes.
By all means.
So thank you very much to Dick Davis, who'll be back with us in another 5 overs, and Andrew Rayburn of Sussex will join me here. Ball-by-ball commentary for Essex and Sussex listeners, and 49 for 1 in 5. I think Essex will be fairly happy with that having been put into bat. Andrew, very good evening.
Good evening to you, Paul. Yes, so we got a change of bowling from the Cromwell Road end. It's going to be Tamal Mills. We're going to see he comes steaming in, left arm over, and he's bowling to Cushy, who can't get that one away, although he's going to come through for a run as he tried to swipe that away through the leg side. Did he make a connection on it? Did it come? Yeah, he did. He got the bottom of the bat onto it, and he comes through for a single, moves him on to 24, and Essex to 49 for 1, 50 for 1 actually. Yes, they've just ticked over to the half-century mark. A little, very small ripple of applause around the ground for that Essex 50, which has come off of just 31 deliveries, 31 legal ones. There's been a couple of extras in there as well as Mills comes in and bowls, and that's clipped away down to deep backward square leg for a single by Lawrence, who's going along nicely. Well, they both are really. Essex 51 for 1 now in the 6th.
Tamal Mills a bowler of express pace, but of course, like nearly all the English bowlers who can bowl 90 miles an hour, he's had a lot of injury, but great to see that he's recovered at least well enough to be one of the world's leading exponents in T20 cricket.
And he's in now. He's up to the wicket and he bowls. And this one is hoiked away down to back, deep back of square leg again. Wasn't timed. They're just going to pick up a single there again. 52 for 1.
Yeah, a little bit difficult to pick the ball up when it goes from the very sunny part of the ground into the shade away to the left. So the man on the deep backward square leg fence there is completely in shade, and the ball, which you at first pick up very nicely, in the end takes a little bit of spotting. But 52 for 1 up on the board. We're in the final over of the power play.
Mills' job is to try and limit the damage from here on in and hopefully pick up a wicket from a Sussex perspective. He's dropped that a little bit shorter, and that one's beaten the man at short fine leg, and it's gone for 4. Beautiful controlled swing of the bat. Mills dropping his length a little shorter and was made to pay.
Good shot indeed, as you say, from Dan Lawrence, who adapted his stance in order to facilitate the shot when he saw the delivery that Mills had bowled. And in this form of the game, you really do have to be able to change your mind very, very quickly, sometimes more than once, and still pull off a boundary hit.
In the 6th over, the last over of the power play, Essex 56 for 1 as Mills comes in now and bowls. And again, that's shorter, but it's up in the air this time from Lawrence. Is he going to get away with it? I don't think he is. And the catch is taken. So Mills does pick up a wicket in slightly unorthodox fashion. It was a similar ball to the previous one, maybe even a tad shorter, I think, Paul. And Lawrence got underneath it this time. And the catch was taken at mid-wicket. So Sussex make the second breakthrough. The score on 56 in the power play. That will be helpful for them. And Dan Lawrence goes for 19.
Yeah, good catch in the end because it was swirling about. The fieldsman didn't get in the ideal position to take it, but in the end dived away and that clutched it to his bosom. And important wicket for Sussex that. Had Lawrence connected the way he was looking to with that, then Essex would have been nicely 60 or above in the power play for only 1 down. As it is, they won't be too despondent at being 2 down. Lawrence, while he was there, played exceedingly well. And so 56 for 2 makes it, I would say, a fairly even power play. Matt Critchley has come out to join Feroz Koushi.
Yes, and it's not necessarily the person you want to be facing first up, Tymal Mills, when you're in a...
True.
Even if the last ball of a power play. No time to adjust yourself as Mills comes in and bowls, and this time, Critchley plays that out into the offside and thought immediately about a single, but was sent back in no uncertain terms by the non-striker Koushi. And so at the end of the power play, then the end of the first 6 overs, Essex are 56 for 2, so going along at just under the 10s at the moment. And I tell you what, though, Paul, in these conditions, with this outfield, as you mentioned earlier, on this pitch, with this team, we could be looking on both teams really, but we could be looking at a high-scoring game.
Very much so. And Essex will be very much mindful of that as the skipper, Ravinder Bopara, well known to Essex supporters and Sussex alike, skipper of the side now for Sussex, and he's brought himself on from the sea end. Probably at a good moment because he's got one batsman new to the crease to bowl at it. Not immediately because Koushi will face his first ball. Here comes Bopara. Bowls and takes the pace off the ball, which is driven very firmly out to short extra, and there is no run. It was a nice shot, but straight at the fieldsman. 6.1 overs in. Essex put into bat 56 for 2. Rossington caught Garton, bowled Crocombe 3. Lawrence, I'm not sure who the catcher was. Hudson Prentice. Good catch in the end off Mills. Thank you for that, Andrew. For 19. Bopara up to bowl to Koushi once again. And again, he all the time takes the pace off the ball. Shy comes in, quick single, goes to backward square leg, but Critchley is safely home. It was his call, and that takes Koushi to a worthy 27. It's interesting that Critchley has come in ahead of Robin Das, who came in at 3 the other night, as he has been for both his brilliant 132 in red ball cricket against Ireland, and that was on Friday. And then match-winning 69 batting at 3 against Gloucestershire. Here, the next ball is played to deep mid-wicket, and they get a single. And that will take the score along to 58 for 2. And Critchley underway. But that run to Kushi, who's moved along to 27. Bopara. So far, not really taken any tap in this over. Will bowl to Kushi. Sorry, it is Kushi now on strike, and that keeps a little bit low, but he's played this out to the man on the cover boundary. But basically, you're talking boundary or single if the ball goes out to the square boundaries here, because they're relatively short. And with the standard of fielding in T20 now, there really isn't a second run there more often than not. 59 for 2 as Bopara has a couple of deliveries left of his first over. Only gone for 3 from the first 4 balls. Up and bowls, and that ball is nudged by Critchley, and there's a misunderstanding. Oh, and there's been a run out there by a long way. If the ball had been taken cleanly by Bopara, it wasn't the best of throws from a fielder off balance in the offside there. Essex fortune on their side there. And it is a no ball, so but of course you can be run out of a no ball, so it is still fortunate for Essex. It's 62 for 2 and a free hit here. Rather careless of Ravi, because he's only sidling up fairly slowly to overstep. Here he comes now and bowls to Kushi on the free hit. Kushi has an almighty swipe and is bowled, but he isn't, because although his stump is lying flat to the ground, he, of course, it was a free hit, so he was entitled to go for it. Didn't really employ enough science to his approach there, but anyway, the score remains 62 for 2.
No, and I think his reaction, he was frustrated at not being able to connect with the free hit, but his frustration, I think, led the crowd to believe that he was out as well, because he sort of walked away from the stumps, but in the wrong direction for the pavilion, so it wasn't as if he thought he was out.
Bopara bowls to him. And this time he does get hold of it, and will get just a single out to the man coming off the wide long off boundary. Kushi moves along to 29, the score to 63 for 2, but in spite of the no ball, a pretty good effort that from Bopara. In total there were 7 runs off the over. I think Sussex would be quite happy with that.
Yeah, I think so. I think Ravi will be pleased to have brought the run rate down a tick. Obviously, when you've been going for just under 10s in the power play overs, to bring it down a little bit is. But here's a moment of cheer for the round the ground and for a lot of our listeners, no doubt. Shadab Khan is going to come on at the Cromwell Road end. He's going to come in short order now to bowl, and it's been punched down to long on. They're going to take 2, are they? Yes, they are. The throw went to the wicket-keeper's end. In fact, it's gone over the wicket-keeper into Crocombe, but really, I think the ball should have probably gone to the non-strikers actually, but anyhow, it's 2 runs to Kushi, who moves on to 31. He's off of 21 deliveries. Essex 65 for 2. And we are at the start of the 8th over as Shadab Khan comes in round the bowl short, and it's pulled away through mid-wicket. And that's going to be a single for Critchley. For Kuruchi, sorry, because it was 2, wasn't it, last time? Yeah, so he moves on to 32. And Essex to 66 for 2.
Yeah, on the whole, Sussex have stemmed the flow of boundaries from over 6 onwards, so we're now in the 8th over. Good cricket from Sussex. Essex could do with a boundary or 2.
Shadab Khan comes in and bowls, and this time it's a sweep shot, and that will be picked up by the man at deep backward square leg. Good solid throw this time, so just the 1 for Critchley on that occasion.
Shadab Khan, leg break bowler, and so far it's not that he's been on top of the batting, but the well-set field has prevented any boundary.
Comes in again and bowls, and this time it's been pushed up towards long on, and again they'll get a single, but it's again, as you mentioned, Paul, boundaries are being curtailed, so that'll be the first job Sussex need to do, is to stem that flow of boundaries, which they've so far done outside of the power play. Shadab Khan comes in and bowls again. This time it's been hoiked through mid-wicket. It's going to fall short of a fielder, but it will be collected on the boundary, and again only a single. And the next job after that is to try and chip away with a couple of wickets to disrupt any rhythm that the Essex middle order may have, because once this Essex team get going, they can really fire. There's a couple of seagulls fly across the media centre, and that one again not got hold of there, and it's going to be a single out to mid-wicket. So end of a decent tidy over from Shadab Khan.
What a good start from him, and the last 2 overs have each gone for 7, which, while from the batting point of view, that's not a disaster by any manner of means. On the other hand, nor is it a triumph. The bowler will feel that he's done a pretty good job with, I think it was a 2 and 5 singles in that over. You'd settle for that because particularly the square boundaries are not that difficult to hit on the full. And it is a high-scoring ground, so I would score the last few rounds in Sussex's favour. Bopara, meanwhile, will continue to bowl himself. He's the skipper from the CN, comes in, bowls to Kushi, keeps a little bit low, it's outside off stump. Kushi looks wistfully at the umpire. Any chance of giving that a wide, umpire? Sadly not, he says, and so it's a dot ball from the crafty old Bopara, who's been playing for pretty much 2 decades actually now. I remember him playing for Essex in 2003 as he comes in. Bowls, and this bowler's off drive, and it's good enough to beat the fieldsman. That's the first boundary for 2 or 3 overs, and that's nicely hit by Kushi with 38 to him. In fairness to Kushi, Rossington didn't find his timing. Kushi has. Critchley has yet to find it. Lawrence obviously did it, his first ball for an enormous 6. But not everybody is finding it that easy to pick up the pace of the pitch here. 74 for 2 in the 9th. 8.2 have gone. Put into bat Essex. Bopara in. Bowls to Kushi. Kushi down to long on. Single. George Garton will do the fielding. And score to 75 for 2 and 8.3 with batting to come for Essex in one order or another. Robin Das, Paul Walter, Tom Wesley, Sams, Harmer, Snater and Sam Cook. And Bopara comes in again, halfway through his second over. Bowls, and batsman has hit this for 4, making ground outside leg stump so that he can smash it down the ground. 4 to Critchley there, who I was saying hadn't found his timing previously, but he timed that one well enough and doubles his score. He's up to 8 and 79 for 2 and 8.4.
Yeah, very well struck from Matt Critchley, playing in his 100th T20 match tonight.
And this one keeps a little bit low. They go for a very quick single. Shy comes in, and that catches the wicket-keeper in an uncomfortable place or two. But the net result is there is a single, and Essex have moved up to 80 for 2 and 8.5, with 9 to Critchley with that single, and Kushi on 39 into strike. Good start in this competition for Rose Kushi. 34 against Gloucester on Tuesday, 39 not out here. Bopara bowls through it, and that 2 keeps a little bit low, just enable him to move on to 40 with a single out to mid-wicket. And Essex, after 9 overs put into bat, are 81 for 2, 40 to Kushi and 9 to Critchley.
Yeah, that's a good example, that over, of why Sussex were happy with the previous couple of overs, where they stemmed the flow of boundaries, because there were a couple in that one, and that's just taken Essex up to a very healthy run rate again. Ravi Bopara, his first-class debut back in 2002, and in Wednesday week it will be 20 years since his debut in T20 cricket. So what a servant he's been to the various teams that he's played for in franchise and county and international cricket over the years.
Yep, no, absolutely. Very well put. He's certainly put himself about. A great enthusiast for the game.
Shadab Khan comes in and bowls from the Cromwell Road end. It's driven. It's well stopped, or is it half chance in the short extra cover region, but either way it's limited to a single for Kushi, so it's 82 for 2, beg your pardon. Kushi onto 41 from 29 deliveries. Critchley will face up against Shadab Khan now, and he goes high. Is he going to be caught at mid-wicket? He is at deep mid-wicket. So that's the end for Critchley, who has to go off frustrated, and Sussex have the third Essex wicket. Another one caught in the deep, another one as Essex try to up the scoring rate. But Matt Critchley falls on his sword on his 100th T20 appearance, and Sussex have their third wicket, and the score is 82 for 3.
Yeah, it was Fieldsman barely had to move, actually. He, I think, sensed that he really had to try and get a move on with it, which was true, and he's perished in the cause. In spite of one good hit straight for 4 in the previous Bopara over, never totally looked as if he got his timing. Critchley there, a little bit surprised that Das, who's been batting at number 3, has moved down the order tonight, and so it all means that Paul Walter has come out now at 82 for 3 as Essex approach the halfway mark.
Shadab Khan comes in and bowls to Walter, and it's been straight to the man at mid-on, and Sussex have 2 in 2. Shadab Khan has 2 in 2. So a big wicket that. First ball up, and Essex now 82 for 4.
Yeah, I'm afraid that was a little bit comical, because he just tamely tapped it straight in the hands of Bopara at mid-on, and it was one of those catches that was so easy that you'd say, you know, well, I'm no great fieldsman, but if I've got to try and catch something, I'll pick that one.
Well, I have to say, the other catches have all been kind of high and hanging, haven't they? And you think, oh, I wouldn't want to be under that necessarily, unless I was rehearsing it and practicing it every single day like they are. But yes, so it's going to be Robin Das now to come in. And he's hurrying out there. He probably wasn't necessarily expecting to be called upon so quickly, having been Essex been 2 down, just 2 balls previously. But Shadab Khan now, for all you Shadab Khan fans out there, he's on a T20 hat-trick.
Yes.
So there's a slip in place now.
Not ideal to come out at this stage for Robin Das on a hat-trick, but he's a very confident young man.
Shadab Khan on a hat-trick for Sussex in the T20 against Essex bowls, and Das plays that uppishly. There was a little bit of a crowd enthusiasm there, but it's got into space. He knew what he was doing there, Robin Das, and he's got a single. He's off the mark, but applause for Shadab Khan after 2 wickets in 2 balls, which have hauled Sussex back into this innings. Essex 83 for 4. Shadab Khan now will come in to bowl with 2 balls left in this over, and that one's played neatly through into the mid-wicket region, and there's only going to take a single. Good bit of fielding, and that gets applause from Timal Mills to his colleague, and it's going to be just the single there for Kushi. It brings Das back onto strike for Shadab Khan's last ball of the over, and that's been, well, I don't know if it's put down or whether it was driven into the ground first, but either way, it's spooned out of Ravi Papara's hands. He doesn't look too disappointed, so I think it might have been a bump ball. But either way, a double wicket over for that one for Shadab Khan, and it was just, I think, the 3 runs off it. 84 for 4 at the end of the over, at the end of the 10th over, so even I can do the maths on the run rate. It's 8.4. And I'll just hand you over to Dick, who can take you through from 10 to 15.
Thank you very much indeed, Andrew. Well, Sussex definitely have had the better of the last 4 or 5 overs, as Bopara sidles up the hill here to bowl up the 3rd of his 4 overs that he's allowed in this competition. It's played out to the man coming off the cover boundary for a single, and that takes the score to 85 for 4 in 10.1, with Rossington out for 3 to Crocombe, Lawrence for 19 to Mills, Critchley for 9, and Walter for 0 first ball. 2 wickets for Shadab Khan, the leg spinner, in his previous over to the one Bopara is now bowling. 85 for 4. And this next ball is hit with tremendous timing, but still only be a single with a heavily populated leg side boundary. But Das certainly caught hold of that in eye-catching fashion. He has 2, Kushi 43. I can understand Lawrence, who wasn't available on Tuesday, coming in and batting at 3 rather than Das, but I really think in the form Das has been in, he should have come in at the fall of Lawrence's wicket, having made 69 a match-win innings from the number 3 position on Tuesday. Now this is hit down the ground and goes for 4. Beautiful straight hit there from Feroz Kushi, and he now is approaching a 50 here. He's played very well. He's got 47, scores 90 for 4. Welcome back to Dick.
Yes, that was absolutely straight, just to the leg side of straight. And although there was a deep long on and a deep long off, it bisected them both.
Popara, number 23, bowls to Kushi, number 23. And they get a single, as the ball was not timed into the offside, but ironically it was the lack of timing that facilitated the single, because it meant the ball went slowly into the covers, and a good spot there by Kushi to call his partner through for a single. They are very quick between the wickets, these two young bloods. Kushi 48, Das now on strike on 2, and about to face Opara. 2 balls left of this 11th over. And that's short. Das waits for it and plays it very nicely square on the offside. But he's hit it too well for there to be anything more than a single, unless it had gone for 4. And scored to 92 for 4 and 10.5 with Das on to 3.
Yes, it was only a single, but it came out of absolutely. There was that beautiful sound when the ball hits the bat in exactly the right place, and but unfortunately it was straight to the fielder. From Essex's point of view, I hasten to add.
Opara bowls. This ball's hit off the back foot by Kushi. They've taken 1, and he wanted to go back for the second for his 50, but was quite rightly sent back. There was never one there. Score goes to 93 for 4, and Kushi has 49, and that is the end of Opara's 3rd over. And typically he's bowled very tightly here, and Essex in 11 overs put into batter 93 for 4, and really they need to find a partnership, because I think at the moment I fancy Sussex a little bit at the strictly at this moment, with Kushi on 49 and Das new to the crease on 3.
Yes, and it's going to be Shadab Khan to continue from the far end, the Cromwell Road end. He moves in now, right arm over the wicket. Bowls to the right-handed Kushi, who just tucks it away on the onside. They'll think about a second, but no, it's not there for the taking. They go through for the single, which brings his 50 up.
He's played very well.
He has indeed. 50 off 35 deliveries. His second T20 50s, Andrew assures us. And that's played nicely again out of the meat of the bat, but again more or less straight to the fielder at backward point on the offside.
Loves that area, Robin Das. He got a lot of boundaries in the Ireland game by that means, in his sparkling innings of 132 off 118 deliveries, 21 fours, 1 6.
On again, bowls, and Das waits for that to come on to him, and again can do no more than chop it hard into the ground to the man at backward point.
Good cricket from Sussex.
It is indeed, yes. They've really put the brakes on the Essex side. Reverse sweep is effective, and it's one bounce about 10, if that, 8 yards in from the boundary, and then goes over the boundary for 4.
Yeah, he did well there, because he knew that the field had come up in the hope that they could contain Robin Das, and he's summed it up well and made sure he just lifted the ball over the infield, and it's never going to stop before reaching the boundary if you beat the infield.
No. And it waits for this, and it's played out to deep long off. Well, obviously long off is deep, that's why it's called long. And they go through for a comfortable single.
Sun getting rather more oblique now, and so the shadows are beginning to encroach almost out into the middle, with Essex 1 shy of 100.
And that's worked away on the onside very pleasantly indeed for 4 runs. Again, the fielder's posted out on the boundary, but it went between the two, so that does bring up the 100. Yeah, as you say, the sun now is coming directly from the west. So if you're watching on if the spectators were here watching from, I think it's called the Palmyra Avenue side over there, and they're having a little bit of trouble looking into the sun. We're going to see Jamal Mills bowling up the hill now from the sea end.
Better over that for Essex, 10 runs up it, and fabulous bit of timing, I have to say, from Feroz Koushi, that last ball, because the man on the backward square leg fence was no more than about 7 or 8 yards from it, but had no chance of stopping it going into the boundary boards. And Koushi, a very important player now from an Essex point of view. Can he hold the innings together, which he's done so far, having opened? But he's also scored pretty briskly as well. Jamal Mills, whose only previous over was from the Cromwell Road end, comes up from the sea end, left arm over, bowls. That's a lovely shot from Robin Das. It'll only produce him 1 run out to the man on the cover fence and score to 104 for 4. And Das moves up to 9.
Yes, played it hard into the ground, and then it bounced over, it being the ball, bounced over the infield, and there was a man on the boundary to complete the fielding. 104 for 4.
Intriguing game here. Really does hold the attention well. Essex have not been able to get away, but they're still very much in the game.
Oh, yes.
As Mills runs away from us and bowls to Koushi. Koushi plays this now. They might think of a second here. It'll be risky. And I think probably Koushi was right to send Das back, as he was prepared to come for a second. Koushi moves along to 55, 105 for 4 after 12.2.
Yeah, it was a pretty good throw. Came in right beside the stumps, so I don't think Koushi would have made it. It was a good call.
There aren't many twos to be had. It's either going to be boundary or a single here. Anything sort of out to the square boundary, certainly. As Mills always begins with this little skip before he runs in and bowls. And this ball's been hit high in the air and could well be caught. And now he's been put down by the skipper, Ravi Bopara. They really should have caught that. That's a bad drop, I'm afraid. Great fan of Bopara, but he should have had that. And indeed, he did have it, and then let it slip out of his hands. 107 for 4. And that is a let-off for young Robin Das, who scores 2 when he should have been out, and now has 11.
Yes, he got it too high on the bat, which was why it got height rather than distance, and nearly and should have paid the penalty.
Well, Lark's been running with Das in recent times, and certainly continued to there. Mills bowls to him, and he hits this a bit cross-battedly, but safely enough down to George Garton on the long-on fence in front of us. They get a single, and that will take the score to 108 for 4 in 12.4 overs. Das with the single has 12. And Koushi, without a doubt, the highlight of this Essex batting display, 55.
Oh, yes. Not more than half of them. Yeah, just.
Indeed. Mills prepares to bowl to him again. 2 balls left of the 13th. Essex ought to be aiming for somewhere in the region of 180 here, but that'll take a bit of doing. And Mills, there goes the skip, and now he gets into full action and bowls. And Koushi has tried to hit a 6, but he's dropped it straight down Bopara's throat, and this time he makes no mistake. And so Koushi departs, caught Bopara at Bowl Mills for 55, and Essex slumped to 108 for 5 in 12.5 overs.
Yes, and that was a simple catch for Bopara. He wasn't going to make a mess of another one, and sure enough, he took that very comfortably. Give Bopara his second catch, and Mills his second wicket.
So Daniel Sams comes out to face the music here. He's only really once made a telling score for Essex, but he's a mighty hitter of a cricket ball, and Essex will be hoping that by the end of this innings he'll have had his second innings of note for the county. Last season was his first for the club. And Jamal Mills here, just asking his captain for 1 or 2 adjustments to his field. I think he's going to come round the wicket to Sams. Obviously has some sort of theory. And 108 for 5 put into bat Essex, with Sussex for 5 overs, conceding runs quite quickly, but they fought back really well. And here's Mills to complete the over, bowls, and Sams can do no more than push a good straight delivery down to mid-off for no run. Tom Allsop fields, and applause for a very good return to the attack for Mills there. 13 overs gone, put into bat Essex 108 for 5, and with 2 relative newcomers to the crease now. Das has 12 and Sams just faced the 1 delivery yet to get off the mark.
Yes, so very evenly balanced at this stage of the innings with 7 overs to go. Well, if they were to get 10 and over, obviously that pushes them up to 178, which would be, you wouldn't have thought much more than par for the course, if even that. So, they'll be looking to accelerate even more than that. So a further change of bowling at the far end. Sees Coles come into the attack. Moves in now, left arm round the wicket. Considerably mistimed by Das, but he still picks up a single out through mid-on. And 1 run goes on to the score. James Coles, just had to look him up.
Yes, Essex could do with some lusty blows at this point. And that's easier said than done. I wouldn't say batsmen have found it that easy timing it tonight.
No, they haven't. That's just played off the back foot out to a long off for an agreed single. They just ambled through. It was never going to be any more, nor was it ever going to be any less or fewer, as the next delivery is swung away for a single down a deep backward square leg. Again, not really timed, probably got more of the bottom half of the bat on it than out of the sweet spot. So Cole's bowling well. Each delivery has conceded 1 so far that he's bowled. And so is that one, although they're scampering through looking for a second, but no, again, it would be extremely imprudent. And although the throw wasn't the best in the world, it would have probably been good enough to find the batsman wanting if he'd gone through for the second as Coles moves in again. Bowls reverse sweep brings it down to 4, just in front of us. In fact, you may even have heard it bounce against something or other just below us as Mills walks towards us to retrieve the delivery, retrieve the ball.
That was well played by Sams, that reverse sweep. Just got it past the wicket-keeper, and therefore it went very fine. Nobody had a hope of stopping that.
No.
Well timed. He's moved on to 18, and the score to 116 for 5. 14th over being bowled. 1
ball to go. 8 off the over so far. And yes, 8. 4 ones and a 4. There's Coles. Moves in just 2 or 3 paces, and Das plays that out of the covers. Well stopped. At mid-off by the skipper, Ravi Bapara. And the first dot ball of the over sees it reach its conclusion with Essex 116 for 5. As regular listeners to BBC Essex at least will know that we, and by we I suppose I mean especially Paul and I, like to field the emails, but it's not really possible in T20 cricket. There's just not time to give them the attention that they undoubtedly deserve. But when we get back to Championship cricket and then the 50 over competition later in the year, then the email lines will be open.
George Garton back into the attack, running up the hill from the sea end. Is in bowls to Daniel Sams, who has smashed this one away to the boundary, and that has just bounced a foot or 2 inside the rope, and 4 runs rather than 6, but that's the Daniel Sams that Essex hope to see dominate these last half dozen overs, because I think they need him to.
They do.
120 for 5, and I think at this stage my money would be on Sussex, but things can change, and it's merely the important words there are at this stage, as Garton coming round the wicket to Sams. And that's down leg side with the inevitable consequence, and 121 for 5, and it's still just the one official ball gone in the 15th over.
The inevitable consequence being a wide signalled by the umpire.
So Garton, fine cricketer, possibly hasn't quite been at his best. I've seen him bowl better than he has so far tonight, but he'll look to put that right here, and it is a good delivery actually. It goes straight through Daniel Sam's defence. Is kept a bit low. So 14.2 put into bat. Essex 121 for 5, of which easily the major share has been Feroz Kouchi with a very good 55. Garton will traverse a mixture of shade and sunshine on his way into bowl. This ball is going to produce 1 run. They might even be able to get a second here, and yet they're coming back for the second. The throw goes in and they'll make it quite comfortably, and the secret of that was the batsman tried to hit it a bit too hard, and there was a complete lack of timing which enabled the second run. If he caught it the way he meant to, it would have been straight to long on for a single. So Sams has moved on with that brace to 8. Das at the non-striker's end has 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this 15th over, and that has bowled. Sams, who had an enormous swish at the ball, played down the wrong line and departs disconsolately for just the 8. Regrets getting the second run from the previous ball now, and Essex declined further to 123 for 6, and I think we're going to see Tom Wesley make his way to the middle now. Of course, Simon Harmer captain in this form of the game, but it has worked well for Essex for Wesley to drop down the order and do the job that Bopara did for Essex when they won the competition, the whole competition in 2019.
Yes, he's not only a very good batsman, but he's an intelligent man, which you'd expect of the captain, or captain of the longer version anyway. And he's very good at shepherding, building an innings, and not just his own innings, but building the team's innings. And it's, in many respects, there's nobody you'd rather see there for the last half dozen overs or so than Tom Wesley.
Well, he made a very good 31 not out against Gloucestershire on Tuesday and showed all his qualities of keeping his head, making sure that wickets falling at the other end didn't make Essex lose their way as Garton's in, bowls to Wesley. Wesley stretches out to a ball wide-ish, but it's outside off stump, so it's not a wide. Doesn't make contact, and good fight back in this over from Garton, and conceded a boundary off the first ball, but I think we've just had 2 runs since then. 123 for 6 in the 15th. Garton reaches the start of his run-up from the sea end. The floodlights beginning to take greater effect now. Where are we? Coming up towards 8 o'clock. Garton bowls. And here's at least 1 run. I think it will only be the 1. Wesley isn't quick between the wickets. And in any case, there wasn't a second run there. So that over ends, 15 overs gone, 7 runs off it. I will make way now for Andrew Rayburn to join Dick Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, very much. And 15 overs gone, 124 for 6. It goes without saying that the last 5 overs are vital to both sides' welfare, and I'd agree with Paul that at the moment you'd think that Sussex are in the better position, but you never know. We've all watched enough cricket over the years that there might be plenty of things happening between now and the last delivery, and so that's worked well on the onside for a single. It's Shadab come back into the attack so far. Conceded, taken 2 for 21 now, including that single off that delivery. Using now right arm over the wicket, and that's just over the head of the man the man being Bopara at mid-off, and it goes through for a single. No, it wasn't fielded as cleanly as it might have been, and that accommodated the taking of a second fairly comfortably. And so with your money, metaphorically of course, we don't bet on cricket matches, be on the home side at the moment, Andrew?
I definitely think that definitely think that. Let's watch this.
That's worked away and taken in front of the dugouts at deep mid-wicket. And Sussex take another wicket, and Tom Wesley, I built him up and paid the price, but not as much as Tom Wesley did for hitting it straight down, more or less straight down. The fielder had to make a yard or two at this level of the game. Certainly expect them to take it.
Absolutely, and it's been another one of those catches in the deep for Sussex. They've certainly. Sorry, my mic wasn't on there.
No.
That'll explain it. Another catch in the deep for Sussex to take. Essex occasionally guilty of mistiming their attacking shots. But of course, the pressure is applied the more wickets that fall in this form of the game, and that therefore gives the bowling side even more opportunity. And so Essex 128 for 7, just to remind you, with 3 balls to go in the 16th over. It's another wicket for Shadow, who's got 3 for 24. He's bowling his final over.
Did you notice who the catcher was?
I didn't actually, because I'm actually sitting in a slightly different position to when I was commentating earlier, and I had the sun in my eyes, so I had to lean back, and I missed who the catch was taken by. Actually,
yes, we'll look that up in a moment as the next delivery comes into Harmer, and just pushes that quietly out to mid on, and there are often times when electronically they give us the result.
It was Ollie Carter who took it.
As Shadab moves in again and bowls, and Das waits for that to come onto him and then plays it out to deep.
Throw at the base of the stumps, and there was no chance of a run out, but there was briefly a chance of a second run off the deflection, but they chose quite wisely not to take that.
So Sadab Khan in again from the Cromwell Road end to the South African Harmer. Waits for that to come onto him and then plays it out on the offside. Going through for 1, they're coming back for 2 as the fielder had to make a fair amount of ground to his right, fielding a sort of sweeper position on the boundary just in front of the main scoreboard. And the over reaches its conclusion with Essex 132 for 7.
Yeah, superb contribution from Shadab Khan, 3 for 28 from his 4 overs. He'll be very pleased with that. Didn't bowl in the first match after his collision in the outfield, so to come on and take 3 for 28 in his first bowling innings for Sussex in T20, he'll be very pleased. And obviously, an experienced campaigner, but he'll be very happy with his contribution thus far in the innings, including, of course, 2 in 2 balls. But for the Pakistan all-rounder, I'd say experienced campaigner, obviously 24, but he's played a lot of T20 cricket is what I mean. As Timal Mills is going to come in now and bowl from the C end. He's up to the wicket now, he bowls, and that one has got a bit of zip about it, and it's just played out into the offside for a single by Das, who will move on to 23, and Essex to 133 for 7. Das is 23 coming from 18 deliveries thus far. So, Dick, what do you think Essex need in these closing overs? How many runs do you think they will need to put up a challenging total?
More or less 4 to go. I'd have thought they must get up to 180 if possible. It's probably somewhat optimistic, but I'd have thought 180 is no more than par.
Mills comes in and bowls, and that's chipped up in the offside, and it's going to be a single again. It's just hit and run for anything now. Take on the fielder's arm if you dare. Anything that lands between fielders, they will scamper through for a single. They have actually turned down, haven't they, a couple of 2s, which may have been good decisions, but it does still mean that I think probably Essex have left, 6, 7, 8 runs maybe out there through decision making.
Maybe.
As Mills comes in and but he's up to the wicket now and he bowls, and that one is firmly slapped over the infield out towards deep extra cover, but it will only be a single. Plenty of men, of course, out on the rope as we enter the closing stages of this innings. We are 3.5 overs left, and Essex are 134 for 7. You're listening to T20 Blast Cricket on BBC Radio Essex DAB and BBC Sussex on the BBC Sport website. Sussex won the toss, selected to bowl, and have reduced Essex to 135 for 7 on a lovely evening in Hove. Sussex by the sea. That one is outside the off stump. Slower delivery, and the umpire has said, no, that's absolutely fine. I think there was a little bit of a look this time from Harmer at the umpire. And no wide signal. So good bit of bowling, clever bit of T20 bowling from Tymal Mills, who has played an awful lot of T20 cricket in his time, in England international, of course. Only T20 cricket for Tymal Mills these days. Little hop and a step as he comes in now and bowls, and it's been squirted out towards the backward point region, and again it's a single, and all of this is putting the squeeze on Essex, Dick.
Yes, as every time Essex score just a single, then that plays into the hands of the hosts, really, because they've got to get more than 6 and over to, I would have thought, to stand a chance of winning this game. They're scoring at 8.1 at the moment, which nowadays is not really good enough.
But if you chip away with the wickets when Sussex come bat, it's a different game entirely.
Certainly is.
Got another fielder out there at the moment as a seagull lands on the outfield, and this one's been slapped away over mid-off, a tracking diving effort, but it's gone for 4. Really superb dive, which Tom Alsop put in there, but he couldn't stop it from going to the boundary, nor could Ollie Carter. And so an important boundary for Essex coming at the end of the 17th over, and it moves them on to 140 for 7. 8 off that Tymal Mills over.
Yeah, so 3 to go. 140. I reckon 180 is nothing more than par, so it's another, 13 and over. 13 and a smidgen.
Crocombe, who's got 2 overs left, is going to come on to bowl.
From the far end, the Cromwell Road end, so he's got, I was going to say, the advantage of the slope with him. I would have thought it's an advantage, but some bowlers are quite happy bowling up the hill. But Crocombe, 2 from each end. Assuming he's going to bowl a second as well. Moves in now, right arm over the wicket to Harmer, and that's down the leg side. That will be a wide.
They always do that, the fielding side, don't they? They appeal for everything down the leg side to try and convince the umpire not to give a wide. Yeah. Because at the very least, if they think, if they can convince the umpire they've heard a noise, but the umpire doesn't think it's out, then they're going to say, oh, maybe it's come off the pad then in that case. Yes. But of course, it's a wide.
Yes, and that's, well, Harmer, I think that came back at Harmer a little bit. He was trying to pull it through the leg side, and I think it came back a little bit, and it finished up going straight through to the keeper. And of course, most county cricket umpires have been players. They're the typical case of poacher turned gamekeeper, so they know all these tricks. They've played them themselves in their playing career, and that's not timed very well, but it picks up a single again. It came on the bat fairly high up towards the splice, and just sort of slapped it, but not slapped it very hard.
You can tell that the fans have all got their all tucking into their food now, because the number of seagulls around the ground has risen exponentially in the last few minutes.
Yes, it has, hasn't it? That's ballooned over the top of. It's not taken very well, so they scamper through for a bye, which is a bit of a bonus from Essex's point of view. Yes, and if we were taking emails now, you referred to the seagulls, somebody would say there's no such thing as a seagull.
There isn't, you're quite right.
They're black-headed gull, to which my reply is that once upon a time, the great Russian author Anton Chekhov wrote a play called The Seagull, not the black-headed gull or the lesser spotted gull, but the seagull. That's a full toss, played out square. But again, it's just a single, and they're doing their utmost, but I fear it's not really what the doctor ordered.
Well, it's worth noting, actually, I think that the last maximum came in the 4th over. So,
really?
Yeah, so we'll just double check that. That's what I looked at earlier, and I think that's the case, still the case now.
As Crocombe moves in again and bowls to Das. And again, that's not timed properly. That was high on the bat and looking to hit it through the leg side for 4 at the very least. Just picked up a single. So this over's gone wide. Dot, 1 leg by 1. So 4 conceded off it. Oh, no, 5. As, well, that has come out of the middle of the bat, but there again it finds the batsman, the bowler. I'll get it right in a minute. The fielder even on the boundary. And
yeah, so the last 6, as I said, was that 6 off of Finn Hudson-Prentice in the 4th over. So, and Essex in total actually have only scored 3 sixes. I say only, that's a decent amount. But yeah, you'd want a couple in the last these last few overs, the last couple of overs. And there's 2 to be bowled. Jamal Mills and Crocombe, I will presume, will finish it off. Just to, we'll obviously run you through the scorecard at the very end, but just to give you an idea on bowling. Jamal Mills has bowled 3 overs, 2 for 20 thus far. Garton 2 overs, 1 for 17. Hudson-Prentice 2 overs, 0 for 16. Crocombe now 3 overs, 1 for 24. Bapara 3 overs, 0 for 27. Shadab Khan 3 for 28 off 4. As Mills comes in and bowls, and that one is just missed everything, I think, down the leg side. And it's going to go away for 4. Did it get the bottom of the bat? It looks like it did.
I think, yes.
Yeah, so the inside edge has taken it just past the the stumps there.
It's a funny old game, this cricket, because nearly every shot that came out of the middle of the bat went for a single. The one that was a total miscue and went off the edge goes for 4. I'm sure there's a moral there somewhere.
And you made a very good point actually, Dick, earlier about the fact that that often you want the shots to be mistimed so that you can get 2, because if you hit it too well,
yes,
then you only end up with a single.
That was a prime example.
Mills again kicks his heels up as he prepares to start his long run into bowl, and this time it's just clipped round the leg side. Oh, brilliant shot, actually, brilliant boundary from Harmer, who has just guided that round through square leg for 4. And these are vital runs for Essex.
They certainly are. So 2 4s off the first 2 deliveries.
It's the penultimate over can be moving day, can't it, to borrow a golf term?
Yes.
This is where you want to try and take risks, especially at 7 down. You haven't got a lot of room to play with.
No, you haven't.
3 or 4 down, you can probably go a little bit earlier, but you don't want to go too early when you've only got a few wickets in hand, because you have to see through your 20 overs. Now this time Mills has completely saw the batsman coming down the pitch and shortened up his length there, and that was almost like a tennis forehand, which has got a single, which takes Essex to 156 for 7.
Yep. Seagulls all roosting, well, not probably getting ready to roost on top of the lesser of the 2 scoreboards.
Yes, they are actually. It looks like the start of a race, actually.
Yes.
As Jamal Mills now, he's up to the wicket, he bowls, and it's been carved up towards mid-off. Again, they're going to take a run. Well, they're going to take a run anyway, because it wasn't cleanly collected at mid-off by Ravi Bapara, a wide mid-off, and they're going to come through for that single quite easily.
Yeah, those seagulls look a little bit, or remind me anyway, of a scene from Hitchcock's The Birds, where, a lot of Hitchcock's drama stems from the fact that the main characters can't see the threat, and the seagulls are all congregating on the children's play framework behind them, until eventually it's just covered a sea of black.
So Mills, with his penultimate delivery, I think, comes in, drops it short. It's been pulled away through mid-wicket. They'll only take a single again because it was struck quite firmly, well timed out towards deep mid-wicket, and it's collected in, and just really the single.
So 7 deliveries remain. No, sorry, 7.
Yes, I think. Yes. The scoreboard has just taken a little bit of time to get acquainted with the current situation, which is 157 for 7. Das on strike with 30. to his name from 23 deliveries.
So it's difficult to see Essex heading to that 180.
Well, you never know, do you? You never know. There's going to be some action in that final over for you to describe, I dare say, as Tamal Mills comes in now and bowls. Full toss, actually, which is hit firmly down the ground, but it will be a single to long off. And so we've seen a few very well hit straight drives, which have bisected the fielders at long off and long on. That one went straight to the man at long off, who is Tom Alsop. And so at the end of the penultimate over, Essex are 158 for 7. And Sussex have just a few minutes to get their last over in, I think.
Yes, does it say somewhere where the cut-off time is?
8:19 it's got up on the scoreboard there, and it's 8:17 at the moment.
Yeah,
so it's the start of the final over, isn't it? So yeah. It's all good.
And it is to be bowled by Henry Crocombe. From the Cromwell Road end comes in now, down the hill, bowls to Das, who looks to turn that way on the leg side, gets a leading edge and it bounces out on the offside, and they go through for a comfortable single as it's the batsman, the bowler himself, who goes and retrieves it.
Well, he was almost interested in a return catch there, wasn't he? But
well, yes.
He certainly came steaming towards it, but he was never close enough.
No, never going to get there. So Harmer, 5 deliveries, assuming they're all valid, to go, and that goes well.
Beats the bat, I think, that one.
Certainly does. Seem to probably go through bat and pad as he was trying to push it away on the leg side. 4 deliveries remain. Not even 160 yet. 159 for 7.
Leg by was the first ball. He couldn't have got the edge in the end.
Yeah, Crocombe to Harmer. And again, almost a carbon copy of the preceding one. And again, look, the batsman looking to push it away through the leg side. Zipped through between bat and pad. So, very good last over.
Absolutely. Obviously, Essex do have to give it the kitchen sink, so you have to bear that in mind. But it is still a very high-quality bit of bowling from Henry Crocombe.
It is run rate 8.2. And, well, this time Harmer does make contact, but he's only picked up a single as he plays it out to deep mid-wicket. On the boundary there, in front of the members' enclosure and the changing rooms. Many a long year ago used to be up there.
No, I said that you'd have some action to describe in the final over, but it's been fairly sedate.
Yes, it does, isn't it?
Final over.
Yeah.
Standards.
And that's squirted away for, I think it was a leg by. I think we heard the thud of leather on, I don't know, canvas or leather or whatever.
Whatever pads are made of these days.
So long ago I played club cricket, they were made of buckskin. So 1 delivery left, assuming it's valid. And it's been a very good last over indeed. As Crocombe moves in, bowls. And that's worked away. And again, that will probably be, well, they might look for 2, hoping for a misfield or misthrow. And they've got away with that because it wasn't a very good throw. That deepest corner out in front of the dugouts, just beneath where the changing rooms are. So they did get 2 off the last delivery. So Essex close on 163 for 7, with Das not out 31 and Harmer not out 21.
This is a Higgity feast. There's plenty of this, and this, and these as well. We top it like this, and bake it like that. Higgity. Baked generously. This is a Higgity feast. There's plenty of this, and this, and these as well. We top it like this, and bake it like that. Higgity. Baked generously.
our side of the ground. You're listening to live T20 Blast cricket on BBC Radio Essex on DAB and via BBC Sussex on the BBC Sport website. We're in between innings. You're not missing anything at the moment. The roller is out on the middle of the pitch, and the umpires have returned. The players will do so just in a short moment. I shall continue with Paul. We may delay Paul because he's currently tucking in some lovely fish and chips.
Yes, as soon as he's finished his, then I'm going to go off and get something very similar, if not identical.
I might do the same, actually. Oh no, I can't. Not if you're. We could leave him on his own. Should we just go off and get fish and chips together?
Yes, and leave
him to do the rest of the match.
My wife's here. She knows a lot about cricket.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We'll leave them to do the rest of the match, and then and we can go off and get fish and chips. We'll take it down to the beach, Dick. How's about that?
Yes, quite.
It might be dark by the time we get down there, but we are lucky to have. The floodlights haven't taken full effect, obviously, yet, because the evening is yet young on the south coast.
I envy it.
And we are watching the Essex fielders come out now to the pitch, and the Sussex batsmen following in their wake. So, just to remind you, Essex made 163 for 7 in their 20 overs. Top scorer was Faraz Kushi with his 55 and 38 deliveries, 4 fours and 2 sixes. Dan Lawrence had the best strike rate with 190, but he was in and out 19 off of 10. Robin Das made 31, unbeaten 31 off of 26. Simon Harmer likewise just over a run a ball, but unfortunately, when you're trying to get your team up to a competitive total, just over a run a ball isn't necessarily going to cut it, but Sussex have to put the work in with the bat now themselves. They can't just think that this total 8s and over is a walk in the park.
Good Lord, no. We've all watched enough cricket in all its versions to know that more often than not it comes back and bites you a little bit. So it is nonetheless, to my mind, Sussex are firm favourites at this stage.
At this stage, well, as Paul said earlier, it's the key phrase, at this stage. At the halfway mark of this T20 Blast match, the third for Sussex, the second for Essex. Sussex started with a defeat against Somerset, hit back with a win over Surrey. Now they're playing a team that don't begin with S. And we'll see. They do have a lot of S's in their name, mind you. And we'll see how this unfolds in the second half of this contest. And we're going to see Cook open up against Clark as he comes in and bowls, and Clark gets Sussex underway. Papara, actually, I think, was going to take that first ball. And he's whipped it away through mid-wicket for a single. So that's the first one of the 164 ticked off.
Yes, indeed.
When you see singles like that in any form of cricket and you've got a target, you think, well, there's an awful lot of them we've got to score.
Yes.
A long way to go. So Papara has one. Clark is now going to face the left-hander as he comes in and bowls, and it's been flicked off his pad down to sort of short fine leg. A throw comes at the stumps, but they come through for a single. Quick single taken. So Clark off the mark as well. Papara and Clark opening up for Sussex. Alsop, Shadab Khan, Burgess, Coles, Garton, Hudson, Prentice, Carter, Mills and Crocombe. The rest of the batting lineup. 2 changes for Sussex, with Shadab Khan in for Ali Orr and Ollie Carter in for Archie Lennon. Cook is going to come in from the CN once more. He's up to the wicket now. He bowls, and Papara is tucked up by that shorter one, and he's going to be a dot ball, and dot balls are vital in this form of the game.
Certainly are.
And Essex want to put the pressure on. Sussex want to squeeze them early doors in their reply.
I was going to say, of course, that a lot of the Essex fielders will know Papara's strengths and weaknesses, but it's such a new team that several of them won't have played against it with him.
The 2 men outside the ring are both on the leg side. In fact, he's just chopped it. He's just cut it straight to the man at short third man, and he's out. Well, he talked about he'll know his game. Well, he's just tamely cut one straight to the man. I mean, it's an edge, a genuine edge, but a cut shot which looped up into the hands of the man at short third man. So an early breakthrough for Essex, an early breakthrough for Sam Cook, and wow.
Game on.
Game on indeed. Sussex 2 for 1 at the start of their reply, chasing 164.
And Bapara
made one. So Tom Alsop comes out to the crease now, and Bapara will be fuming. And he is a big figure, Ravi Bapara, in this lineup, as everybody knows. But I think, as Paul mentioned earlier, one of the key format points, I suppose, at T20 is that different players will always contribute through a campaign. And,
yes.
Bapara contributed with the ball against Surrey in the last match, but not so with the bat, and has failed with the bat in this one as well, as Cook buoyed by that wicket comes in, and that's a Hoik first up from Alsop. It's going to land over the head of the man at long on. He's brilliantly tumbled stop 4 runs, but they're going to come back for a third. So a real Hoik, that one from Alsop, who has come out with great intention.
Yes, and Harmer did well to stop it going over the boundary. Very well indeed. Caught by Wesley.
Yes, Wesley was the man who claimed the catch at short third man to dismiss Ravi Bapara for just 1. So 5 so far off the first 5 deliveries of this reply, as Cook comes in and bowls. That's on the leg side and worked away through backward square leg. They're going to be able to come back for a 2. In fact, it might go all the way for 4. In fact, it does. It's a diving stop. It's actually further backward of square than I thought, and it's gone down to the boundary for 4. So the first boundary of the Sussex innings, and it's 9 for 1 at the end of the first. So they're well up with the run rate, but they've lost that key wicket of the captain, Ravi Bapara, out for just 1. And Paul has finished off his fish and chips, and he's now able to join me for the opening burst of this reply.
Yeah, it's important to keep these things very accurate. Finish the fish. Quite a few chips there.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
This is because they gave me an enormous helping of chips, and I like them, but it was very good, I hasten down in, very enjoyable fish, good value.
Excellent.
Especially as I didn't have to pay for them at all.
Well, in that case, it's even better value.
Well, that's right. But a big blow for Sussex to lose Bapara so early. As we see Sams come left arm over the wicket from the Cromwell Road end. Bowles, and Alsop, who's got quite a good record in his Hampshire days of runs against Essex, won't get any further to his tally here. Das fields at short mid wicket, and I did feel Essex missed a bit of a trick, having seen Das do so well from number 3 with a match-winning 69 on Tuesday, dropping down to number 6 in the order. But in some ways, I was even more impressed with him because he was never in the touch that he was on Tuesday, and the ball hasn't necessarily been easy to time out there. As this next one is hit into the onside and very well fielded by Das, tumbling to his right at mid-wicket. But I was impressed with the young man for the way that he stuck in there. And the 2 who actually played the longest innings for Essex were the 2 youngsters, Feroz Kushi with 55 and Robin Das with 31 not out. And they basically, if Essex do somehow get out of this game alive, and it's not impossible, they will have a lot to thank the 2 youngsters for, as Sams is in. Bowls to Alsop. Alsop has hit this for a single, out to deep square leg, and bring Tom Clark on to strike, and needing 164 to win. Sussex 10 for 1 in 1.4 with the important wicket, 1.3 with the important wicket of Bapara caught by Wesley off Sam Cook for just 1.
Tom Clark playing in his first 3 T20 matches in this campaign. He's not played T20 until that Somerset game. He made 8 on that occasion, and then against Surrey he made 9. So be looking to improve on that.
As Sams is in, that's a good delivery. I think it was deliberately left, but it left the batsman, left arm over to left-hand batsman off the pitch. Score 10 for 1, and quite honestly, it's like 2 different days here, because for most of the Essex innings there was glorious sunshine throughout. Now the sun's dipped below the horizon, and there's an almost eerie, ghost-like feel out there now. The floodlights have yet to take full effect. It's that difficult time to bat, actually, in the crossover between broad daylight and the floodlights taking over. Sams is in. bowls, and this ball is dug out by Clark into the offside very properly. He's not trying to throw the bat at everything at this stage, even though it is the power play. But I think keeping wickets in hand is going to be important for Sussex, particularly with the early departure of Bopara.
Absolutely, yes. And when you're chasing, you've got that. That's the bonus of chasing. You've got that target. You know what you need to do. And so when you're trying to get 164, keeping wickets in hand can be very crucial.
And to complete the over, Sams is in. Bowl, slower ball. That's going to be a wide. And the score goes to 11 for 1. And I think certain observers of the game would say, why did you do that? Why do you try the slower ball there? Because you've been bowling a thoroughly good over so far, and the batsman hadn't been looking as if he was about to cut loose. And the trouble is, when you change your pace like that, it is very easy just to lose your line a little bit. However, I do recognise that in T20 generally, you do need to be able to bowl a slower ball. And Sams is in. Another attempt to complete the over, and that's 4 runs. And that's the extra ball. So what might have been a dot ball for the 6th ball cost 1 run for the wide, now 4. They're lovely shot through the covers. Very good timing from Tom Clark there. Let the ball come onto the bat. I felt Essex generically tried to hit the ball too hard.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, early on that worked quite nicely. I mean, the ball was obviously slightly newer, and then you can get the pace off the bowling as well. But once and of course the field restrictions, once it was quite noticeable actually, I think, that once the power play was over and the fielders were out on the rope a little bit more, that suddenly those attacking shots mistimed and were straight down fielders' throats more often than not.
Absolutely, yes. 15 for 1 after 2, therefore. And we're going to see the skipper, Simon Harmer, captain of Essex in this form of the game, and a very good job he's made of it as well, is coming into the attack from the CN.
One of the great bowlers of county cricket in recent years, Simon Harmer, as he comes in round the wicket and bowls to the left-hander. He's been chipped up in the air and he's going to be out, and it's first ball. Simon Harmer strikes, and Essex have got their 2nd wicket, and Alsop goes. Just 4 from 5 deliveries, and that is a fantastic introduction from himself there, Simon Harmer. And Essex are already chipping away at this Sussex batting.
Yeah, that's just what they didn't need there. And I was accusing Essex of trying to hit the ball too hard, and maybe that was an example of the same syndrome, because it's not the first time that Alsop, who's a fine player in my opinion, I've seen him play some terrific innings for Hampshire, but I felt he's come in and just tried to build Rome in a single day rather than get himself in there and then accelerate. He'd already mistimed 1 quite badly, and that one has just looped up for a catch. If there was a difficulty, it was managing to stay awake while it was on his way to him, because it took forever to reach Sam Cook. And Cook took it a shade awkwardly, but nevertheless he was never going to drop it. He's actually a very fine fieldsman. So 15 for 2, and Essex, Harmer immediately successful. We'll be very happy with that, because now Sussex can't really afford to go gung-ho yet.
Shadab Khan in as the new batsman, and he swept it straight to the backward square leg, and it's out. Shadab Khan's gone first ball. Simon Harmer is on a hat-trick. Essex are on a roll, and the fielders converge in the middle, and they are cock-a-hoop. Shadab Khan held the pose. He couldn't believe that he'd swept it straight to the man at backward square leg. And I tell you what, this could be a short-lived evening at this rate, because Essex have taken 3 wickets in the first, 14 deliveries of the Sussex reply, and they are 15 for 3 chasing 164.
Slaps it straight to the right ear of Kushi, who made light of the catch. It was a good catch because it was hit pretty hard, but he certainly wasn't dropping it, and the glee that he showed in having taken the catch was understandable. He's had a good evening for Rose, with 55 to his name, easily the top scorer and best innings for Essex in their 163 for 7 in 20 overs, having been put in. But Harmer We know he's the man with the golden touch, but he must be thinking it's really a golden touch the way he started here with 2 wickets in 2 balls.
Harmer on a hat-trick for Essex in this T20 against Sussex. Now, big appeal. He's got the hat-trick. He has! LBW! Simon Harmer has a T20 Blast hat-trick. And what a night this is turning out to be for Essex. And Simon Harmer, their captain. A hat-trick in the T20 Blast at Hove.
Well, Michael Burgess has got plenty of experience. The one thing he'd have advised him not to do is what he did. He had a Yahoo at that, missed it, was palpably in front. We're not in a position good enough to say, well, that was definitely out. That's what the umpire's for. But you weren't that surprised when the finger went up.
It was a big appeal. I mean, I know he's on a hat-trick, but he looked dead certain, didn't he? And I tell you what an achievement for Simon Harmer. T20 cricket hat-tricks tend to be, or can be, involving some catches out in the deep. But he is, a couple were caught, but that one was a cracking delivery, dead straight. Don't think it turned much, but it certainly slammed into the pads. And Simon Harmer has actually, we had Shadab Khan, I was going to mention earlier, didn't even have time to mention Michael Burgess as the new batsman. It's all happened so quickly. But he's been and gone. It's complete chaos. There's 3 red W's up on the scoreboard away to our right. Simon Harmer has a hat-trick. Sussex are 15 for 4, the Sharks. The Sharks were circling earlier. They're sinking badly now as Harmer comes in. Can he get 4 in 4? Well, this time it's worked through mid-wicket. Some ironic cheers from the home fans as there's almost some comical fielding as well, with a shy at the stumps that wasn't collected and then almost overthrows, but the Sussex batsman thought against it. So what have we got? We've got Tom Clark, who's seen the whole thing dismantle around his very ears. He's on 9. Cole's got 1 there. James Cole's just come to the crease, and now there's a big shot over the vacant area, which is 1 bounce for 4, over through sort of wide mid-off, and that's going to be a boundary. Wow, for Clark. So he moves on to 13, and Sussex 20 for 4. It's a long way from here. Harmer comes in and bowls. This time it's been worked away into the leg side for a single. Moves Sussex on to 21 for 4. The Duckworth-Lewis, incidentally, suggests that, we're not going to have any rain, but it's a good indication of par, and that's talking about 50, while Sussex are well short of that. They're 21 for 4 at the end of the 3rd over. So whilst they may be okay rate-wise, they've lost a lot of wickets. 4, in fact.
Well, they have, and really, Sussex, they've got 4 runs off the last ball of the over, and you can't possibly blame the batsman for hitting a 4, but they're certainly continuing to take risks when perhaps they need to bed down a little bit, as Sams is in and bowls from the Cromwell Road end, and they can take a single, and the score to 21 for 4, and we are only in the 4th over, because after 2 overs, Simon Harmer ingeniously took Sam Cook out of the attack, and Cook had already removed Bopara in his then only over. Harmer says, I think I can go better than you, and takes a wicket with each of his first 3 deliveries in the game, and has removed the cream of the Sussex batting order, basically, in just half an over. Sams, in fairly indifferent light, you'd have to say. It's not the easiest of light for the batsman to bat in the crossover between daylight and the floodlights. And this is hit in the air, and 1 bounce to mid-wicket. And when you first saw that ball go in the air there, Andrew, you thought, here's another one, but it actually went to ground quite quickly.
It did. It came off the splice, and it went up in the air quickly, but it came down just as quickly. And the mid-wicket was briefly interested. Of course, this is all happening in the power play, so there is only, there can be 2 men out on the boundary. I'm looking round. I think there's only 1 at the moment, because they brought a fielder in to add to the pressure. There's a big circle of fielders surrounding the batsman.
Sams bowls, and that again is hit slightly uppishly but safely, and goes out to Paul Walter in the outfield. They get a single. And the score moving along to 22 for 4 in 3.2 overs, with 1 to Coles, 15 to Tom Clark, who's observed the carnage at the other end, basically.
Yeah, just the one man outside the circle, I think, and it's the man at deep backward square leg.
Sams makes his way in again. And this ball's hit very nicely high into the onside, and that will go away to the mid-wicket boundary for 6. That's a tremendous pick-up, that. And score races along. The ball was a bit slow, the ball before. When I said 22 for 4, which is what it said, it should have been 23, and that will now be 29 for 4. Brilliant pick-up there, I must say, from Tom Clark.
Yeah, brilliant shot. It's the longest boundary and the longest point of that boundary as well, I think, on that square leg side. There is a man actually deep point as well, which I didn't see. He was obscured by the seats.
Keeps a bit low, the next one, and that may have been a bit of bat, but may just be a leg by. I'm waiting for the signal. It's a leg by, so they get another run. 30 for 4. Better progress in this over for Sussex, and although it's a great start for Essex, with Simon Harmer taking a hat-trick in just the third over, but cricket's such a wonderfully unpredictable game. All it would take is a couple of guys to bed down, and this can all change. But Essex certainly would be disappointed if they didn't win after Harmer hat-trick. This is hit in the air, it's not going to be out. The ball is fielded on the stumble at deep square leg. They get a single and score to 31 for 4. Coles has his second run, or I think perhaps his third run, just waiting for the board to update. But target 164, and we're in the 4th over, 1 ball of it left, with the score on 30 for 4, 31 for 4. Yes, they've been a bit slow suddenly. They weren't in the Essex innings.
Yeah, both these two are playing in their 3rd T20 matches of their career. And Coles and Clark. Conversely, the bowlers, Daniel Sams and Simon Harmer, between them have played more than 275 T20 matches. And this one from Cook is come on to bowl at this end. The C end is wide, and the umpire signals as such. I'll tell you what, though, Paul. Obviously, yeah, you said Essex will be disappointed if they don't win from here, particularly after a Simon Harmer hat-trick. I mean, if Sussex are to win, which is obviously the other alternative, we would be in for some drama. I tell you that much.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
So you don't want to miss anything. 32 for 4, the Sussex Sharks, on a slight mini recovery, believe it or not, as that one is missed, though. A big bit of a swing that from Coles, and he missed it completely.
Well, I think we would all have agreed that with Essex not making as many as we thought they were going to after a decent start in the power play, that Essex always knew they had to take wickets to win this game, and boy have they done so far. But the job's not done. They've still got to take more.
So Cook, who took the first wicket, that of Ravi Bopara, comes in and bowls, and it's that shot, almost like a tennis shot, has hit the batsman at the other end. They're going to come back for a single, and that's a little fortunate deflection, actually, because I'm not sure they would have got the single without it deflecting off the non-striker. And Sussex...
It actually hit the non-striker's bat.
Yeah.
So both batsmen have hit that ball. And it was an accident, so nobody's grumbling.
If you remember the test match last year where Jack Leach picked up a wicket with in a similar situation. That one stayed on the ground, though, rather than up in the air as Cook comes in and bowls. And the batsman tried to, this time it was Coles, tried to... come down the pitch to try and make it and turn into a full toss, but he didn't time it, and it was collected out in the offside for no run.
Yeah, good Yorker from Cook there, and the batsman in the end just getting the bottom of the bat onto it.
Cook round the wicket to the left-handed Clark. It's a shorter one, and this one is cross-batted up down the ground for 4 runs. Unorthodox stroke, but you get those in T20. If you've come to the ground, or you're watching on the stream, having seen the test match on the telly earlier, I suppose in this day and age under Brendan McCullum, you might see those shots as well in the test match, but you do see some unorthodox approaches to getting boundaries, and boy, do Sussex need them however they come. But yeah, almost like a tennis shot, that one, as Cook comes in and bowls, and this time it's been worked away on the leg side, backward a square for a single. 38 for 4, the Sussex Sharks score, as we head towards the end of the 5th over, when I might have otherwise brought in Dick, but he is now enjoying the delights of fish and chips.
Yes, it's not deliberately planned by us, Andrew, but as soon as Dick's finished, and he's pretty quick, he will gladly give you a chance to go away and get some fish and chips.
So we're going to see Sam Cook come in for the final ball of this 5th over. He's bowling now, and it's a good Yorker again, full-length delivery, dug out well though, and it's going to be a quick single taken. So Sussex need the runs any way they can. They finish the 5th over on 39 for 4. The damage done initially by Sam Cook, who took the wicket of the captain Ravi Bopara in the 1st over, and then Simon Harmer 2 overs later took a hat-trick with his first 3 balls of the match. The South African spinner brought himself on as the captain and took 3 wickets in 3 balls. What a fantastic achievement for him. Just to tell you, he took, just in case you're catching up, he took Tom Alsop for 4, and then Shadab Khan and Michael Burgess, 2 really big figures in the Sussex engine room, both first ball.
So Sam's will continue from the... In fact, I'm not sure he is going to actually. Cromwell Road End. Just waiting for the scoreboard to update. And this one is hit in the air over mid-wicket. And that's going to produce 1 run. Score to...
Snater's come on.
Snater it is. Come on, thank you. Shane Snater. Score has moved along. I'm not sure they've put that run up yet. It's
no, 40 for 4.
40 for 4. And...
What I did like earlier in the Essex innings, Paul, was when it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
That was quite...
Always like to see that on the board. Happened the other day during the Essex Island Tour game. And Snater around the wicket to the left-handed Coles, James Coles. And goes out to deep square leg for a single. And score to 41 for 4. We are in the power play still, but only just. This is the final over thereof. And these two, credit to them, are still trying to attack the bowling, which they've got to do. They can't let the score go completely in favour of Essex, but they came in at 15 for 4. Snater's in a bowls, and that's hit back, and technically it was a chance to Snater there. He was probably very wise to take his hands away from the ball. It's hit ferociously back at him. It's 4 runs. The Snater is capable, actually, of catching those, but on this occasion doesn't. And that's 4 more runs to the very impressive Tom Clark, who moves up to 27.
Yeah, I tell you what, he's absolutely leathered that one. It would have probably broken a bone or two had Snater decided to go for it.
Yeah, I'd have done what Snater did, got my hands out the way. That keeps it a little bit low. They're going for a quick single to Harmer, mid-on, and Harmer actually hits the batsman, not intentionally. He threw the ball into the ground, it bounced up. The batsman shows no reaction at all, and I think he's calling for a new bat, having said that, Tom Clark. But I have to say, I've been impressed with him. I've not really seen much of him before, but that 6 that he hit was beautifully picked up, and it's 46 for 4.
Yes, it was a bit of an odd... Simon Harmer's throw was well after the batsman was in anyway, so it was applying the pressure.
Bowls, and this ball's gone in the air. It clears the man on the infield at mid-wicket, and quick as a flash, they are back for a second run there, to the credit of James Coles, who moves along to 13, and that brings up the Sussex 50 for 4 in the final over of the power play. And they've actually done well to reach this position once you take into account that after 2.3 overs they were 15 for 4.
Absolutely. Just see the final ball.
Snater's in, bowls, bouncer, just waiting to see if the umpire is going to penalise the bowler. There it does, given it as a wide.
The umpire at square leg indicated...
Oh no, in fact, no ball. He's going for a free hit.
Well, it's yes. Might be... Was it a no ball as well? And
well, I think the board will move up by 2 for the no ball.
Yep, it is. So it's a no ball as well, but it was. It might have been overstepping.
Yeah, I think
because it was an overhead wide, but yes. It was definitely an overhead wide that was signalled by the square leg umpire. They're now discussing it with each other, the two umpires, because I think they're wired for sound, aren't they, the pair of them? So they don't have to converge and meet somewhere. They're discussing it. So what's going to happen here? The two umpires have had a chat, and the batsman's now going to have a word with the non-striker. Is going to have a word with the umpire. No free hit. So it is just the overhead wide.
So Snater's in the bowls, and that's very well taken by Rossington, who claims a catch, but the umpire will have nothing to do with that. I don't think for a moment the batsman hit it. Now, we haven't had the run for the wide up on the board yet, because the 50 had come up off the previous ball.
Yes, you're right. It got a little bit confusing because the umpire signalled an overhead wide. But of course, it's only, so I think what the situation was is he's given the no ball, I suppose, for the overhead wide, but of course that doesn't instigate a free hit. That's only on overstepping.
Now, if you'd like to take advantage of Dick having finished his chips, we will take over your seat. I told you he was pretty quick.
He's not too bad, is he?
No.
Right, I shall leave you in the hands of Dick Davis as Paul continues.
In fairness to myself, Dick has more teeth left than I had, as Harmer is up from the CM bowls, and that, I think it could have been caught at short mid-wicket there, and they're thinking of coming back for a second. Sam Cook, the fielder, normally very safe pair of hands, but on that occasion just let the ball spill through his hands. It was low, so it was not easy, but score, I'm not happy whether this scoreboard is correct, because for me, before that no ball incident, the score was 50. They've allowed nothing for whatever the decision finally was from the umpires on that. And here's one more run onto the board. The ball goes out into the deep on the offside, and score to 52 for 4. We'll have to go by the board, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if there wasn't a correction eventually. Harmer's in again, bowls, and this ball's been heaved away to deep backward square leg. It's fumbled. They think about a second, but they just weren't quite on their toes enough as that ball was fumbled. They'd assumed that the ball would be fielded properly by Cushy, and it's 53 for 4, and very well done, Dick. I don't know if I've given you time to finish off the last scratch. We'll bring you in after this ball as Harmer's in a bowls, and that's hit in the air, but it was a bump ball. There's a little ooh from the crowd because Cook should really have caught it, even though, as I say, it wouldn't have been as in caught and out. But anyway, they get the single, 54 for 4 in the 7th over. Decent recovery this by Sussex, needing 164 to win in their 20. This should only be a single out to Paul Walter, and indeed that's all it will be. And that is 55 for 4, and Walter, as advertised in the advance notes on the game, is wearing an Adam Rossington reserve shirt because for some reason his own shirt hasn't arrived in Hove today, and Harmer's in bowls. A great bit of wicket keeping. Looked out to me, but not out, says the umpire. When I say that, from the point of view, he seemed to have left his ground at the moment the bails were removed. But I can assure you it's not a case of bias. I'd say the same if it were an Essex batsman. In fact, Andrew has very courageously come to my aid here. Dick's trying to lay one on me by sort of saying, how can you say that? Anyway, the umpire is the only arbiter that matters, and the score is 55 for 4. We've now had 7 overs, and Sussex need 109 off 13, and we could have, even despite that Harmer hat-trick, an exciting finish.
Oh yes, we could. Yes, I missed all the fun while I was standing in the queue for fish and chips. I was astonished when I looked up to see 4 wickets had gone. No, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that wasn't meant to be amusing, but to pass judgment from 60 or 70 yards away when we're almost straight behind the bowler's arm on the stumping is courageous, if nothing else.
Phenomenal eyesight, Dick. Phenomenal eyesight.
Yes. Right. Okay. So that's just worked away on the onside for the single. They think about a second, but it's not there. Critchley bowling.
Leg spinners. Does a pretty good job actually with his slow bowling. He didn't have a bad night. Tuesday.
He certainly gives it a good rip.
Yep, it looks easy, but he isn't.
No, moves in now and bowls. Loud appeal for LBW, and he's got his man. And Sussex are 56 for 5.
I hate to say this, Dick, but I could see the umpire was smarting after I'd suggested that he may have made a mistake in the previous over. But, well, for once I've timed the comment well, because I was just saying Critchley looks easy but isn't. And the batsman has just proved the point, really. He went after it, missed it, and the umpire's finger was up in a flash.
Yes. Well, I think word had got to the umpire that via our commentary, you had expressed the view that was out, and he thought, oh, well, the next opportunity, I better make up for it then.
Tom Clark, I have to say I was impressed with him, and that's a big blow for Sussex.
Yeah, it's a big wicket for Essex as well. So 5 down for 56. And so the wickets, as I say, I'm not in a position to to talk about what happened earlier on, because I was standing in the queue when all the first 4 wickets went, and so they went at 2 off the first ball, the first over, then 15, 15 and 15 off the first, second and third deliveries of Harmer's first over and the third of the innings as Critchley moves in and bowls. Oh, and that's drilled back hard at the bowler, and there again, a little bit like Slater did, discretion being the better part of valour, chose to get out of the way rather than in the way. It's Garton who's come to the stumps, left-handed batsman. Critchley bowls to him now, and he nudges that down to third man. Well, no, it's not. It's more or less square on the offside for a single.
Good cricket that from Garton. Came in, hit the first ball like a tracer bullet.
Yes.
I'm totally with Critchley to take his hands out of the way and then just single off the next.
Yeah, well, that's a miscue, the like of which we saw many in the Essex innings, trying to drive it through the covers, got a thick inside half of the bat, and it finished up going out on the leg side for a single.
I think the moral to be drawn from what we've seen is that batting isn't as easy as we thought it was going to be out there.
No. And that's played out into the covers. It should have been a dot ball, but it was misfielded there at short cover by, well, we won't name and shame, an Essex fielder.
I think actually Ben Allison has come on as a substitute fielder, and in fact he's just trotting off again.
Yes.
And it was hit quite firmly at him. He should have stopped it, but I'm going to give him just a warning rather than an official penalty, because he'd only just come onto the field.
He'll be grateful for that.
He will.
He'll be very grateful.
He will. Well, I like to keep him with him.
Yes.
63 for 5, so Essex made 163 for 7. And what Sussex can't afford to do, they can still win, but they can't afford to lose many more wickets.
No, they can't. They're actually up with the rate.
Yep. Dan Lawrence into the attack with his frog in a blender off breaks. And this one is a wide. It's smart work from Rossington to whip the bails off, but the batsman had not left his ground this time. 64 for 5, and we're in the 9th over.
Yeah, they require exactly 8 and over, according to the scoreboard.
Lawrence bowls again. This ball's hit back very firmly. Has the way taken off it by Lawrence. He must have been thinking about taking his hand out of the way as well, as Garton gives the ball a fair old whack. He has 7. There are 16 to James Cole. 65 for 5. And 8.1 overs gone. There have been 2 balls in the over, but one, of course, was a wide. So still 5 balls to be delivered. And Lawrence from the CN bowls, and this ball is hit out to wide, long off. Can Harmer prevent a second run? He can, and has a good throw on him and picked it up cleanly. And 66 for 5 in 8.2. First few clouds in the sky all afternoon down here. Nothing threatening. As Lawrence is in. Bowls, it's hit back, brilliantly caught the bowl. The batsman cannot believe it. And that is the end of George Garton, who absolutely smashed it back. And unlike Snater and just trying to think, it was Critchley, who both got their hands out of the way of viciously hit balls. Lawrence had already stopped one, And I thought, well, he might learn a lesson there, but he didn't. He brilliantly caught that. You have to hand it to the man. That was a sensational return catch. And the Devil's number, whisper it quietly, the Devil's number is up on the board, 66 for 6.
Indeed. And we don't have the benefit of a TV screen in the studio to watch the live stream, but those who are watching our live stream, no doubt that's being replayed once or twice now, so you can fully appreciate the either it was the courage of Dan Lawrence, or he wasn't quick enough to get out of the way. He pays your money, he takes your choice, but whichever it is, the net result is that Sussex are 66 for 6.
And Dan Lawrence loves his bowling. Sometimes he can be a bit grumpy if you interview him after a game about his batting, but with his bowling, it brings a smile to his face. A bit like Ravi, who always loved his bowling. Here is Lawrence in and bowls. Appeal for LBW. It's not going to be given out as the batsman went on the reverse sweep.
The umpire just sort of twitched his right arm then to give hope, and then he said, no, it's just...
Yes, he thought, I'll give those commentators something to keep them on their toes.
Yeah.
Finn Hudson-Prentice, by the way, is the new man. James Coles is still there on 17 not outs of 16 deliveries. And next ball, nice off drive, straight out of the MCC coaching manual, but goes straight to Harmer on the long off boundary and they get a single, 67 for 6. But after making a pretty decent recovery from that hat-trick from Harmer when 4 were down, these last 2 wickets are going to hurt Sussex, I fear, from their point of view, because they still need another 97 to win, and there's now only 4 wickets left. We're in the 9th over, which Lawrence comes in to complete. And this will bring at least 1 run onto the board. Walter has to run round. They may take a second, and they are going to. And that's a good decision because Walter's left arm, so he had to run round the ball before he could throw it. And he lost his footing in the process. Hasn't been his evening, Paul Walter, because he was out first ball. And at the end of that over, Sussex in 9 overs, needing 164 to win, are 69 for 6, with James Coles on 16 and Finn Hudson-Prentice just underway with a single.
So as consolation for the Sussex team, and indeed the Sussex supporters who are here and listening, they are more or less up with the run rate. So all is not lost by a long way, but then we know it's not lost. The game's never over until well, I don't think you can use the normal phrase nowadays, as Critchley moves in and bowls, has worked away backward of square on the onside. A lot of things that once upon a time were considered mildly amusing are now not considered amusing. But,
tell me about it. Yeah.
So you know what I mean, it's not over until it's over.
No, 70 for 6 on the board.
As short of a length there, and it hurried through outside the off stump.
I say again, Critchley looks as if he ought to be easy. He's canny, people find it difficult to get away.
Yes.
Get him away.
And that's worked away in the onside. Well, I bowled leg spin, which looked easy, and the batsman proved it by dispatching it into various parts of southeast Essex. So, yeah.
They're still looking for quite a lot of balls, I'm told.
Yes, indeed. As Critchley moves in again from the Cromwell Road end. Bowls worked out to long on. It'll only be a single. Throw comes back to the bowler's end. Critchley takes it. Critchley wearing 20. Run rate required of only of 7.5. So that's well within their compass. If they can... it's only the batsman the number of batsmen that's the problem. Oh, and that's well smothered, I would say, rather than fielded. The fielder there in the covers, who's at Cushy, sort of got everything behind it and fell on the ball like a rugby fullback would. And... it meant it was only 1 run as Critchley moves in and bowls. Batsman comes down the wicket, and then I think Critchley must have seen him coming because he dropped it in a little bit shorter, and in the end the batsman's just grateful to push it out on the offside. Excuse me.
Lovely bit of bowling actually by Critchley at the end of the over there. Did the batsman completely in the flight. 73 for 6 in 10. Now that's only 16 runs shy of what Essex were at halfway, which was 89 for 4, when Essex had just lost 2 wickets in 2 balls. But with the big difference, these extra 2 wickets that have fallen, and somebody's got to bat tremendously well in the lower order, not only to bat tremendously well, but to stay there for most of the remaining 10 overs. There's Paul Walter, who hardly got a bowl for Essex until the 100 last season. He was remarkably successful and not only took a lot of wickets, but proved difficult to get away as well. He had a thoroughly good tournament in the 100, and he was only in it as a sort of call-up for a replacement. Did himself proud, although he was injured in the last game he played in. Here he is, that's his first ball, and he goes over the top of the stumps. Batsman through with the shot before the ball arrived, and in 10.1, needing 164 to win, Sussex 73 for 6.
Yes, Paul Walter's a deceptive bowler, in as much as with his natural physique, what do you say, 6'7" or something like that?
Yep.
You'd expect him to be a yard quicker than he is.
Comes around the wicket, left arm from the CN, and that ball's been handsomely struck into the offside, and that is racing away to the boundary. That's one of the shots of the innings, that beautifully played away through between mid-off and extra cover, and the score races along to 77 for 6, and that takes Coles to 25.
And Hudson Prentice just 3, but he's not facing.
Walter in and bowls to Coles and digs a Yorker out, single to mid-wicket. They do the right thing and run the first one quickly, but actually it's very difficult to get second runs on this ground, particularly anywhere square with the wicket either side, because the boundaries are short, and it's 78 for 6 in 10.3.
Yes.
Hasn't been Paul Walter's evening so far, but here he is with his 4th delivery of this over. Bowls that short, it's hit a long way in the air, but it's going to land perfectly safely. He should be able to come back for a second here, and that will take the score to 80 for 6 in 10.4. 2 more runs, this time to Hudson Prentice, who moves along to 5. Walter, with the sort of gloaming effect has gone now. The floodlights have completely taken over, and it's actually much easier to see as Walter's end bowls, and this ball not where the batsman was aiming, but a one-handed shot has gone in the air safely past the square leg umpire. Cushy is in from the boundary to keep it to a single, and Sussex advanced to 81 for 6 in 10.5, target 164. So their problem is that they haven't quite reached the halfway stage of the run chase yet. They're very nearly, but they have lost more than half their wickets.
Yes.
Walter is into completely over here. Bowls to Coles, and that's a wide. Poor delivery, 82 for 6. And now Sussex are exactly halfway to their target of 164. Sensational hat-trick for Harmer, who after Cook had removed Bopara in the very first over, tamely holding out to Wesley at short third man for 1. Harmer then, with his first 3 balls of the evening, got a hat-trick in the third over only, and this next ball is played out to deep extra cover, and Snater Fields single, and not the best of overs from Walter, not a disaster or anything, but it's not really been his evening so far. 11 overs gone, 83 for 6 on the board, Coles 27, Hudson Prentice 6, and then Sussex had only lost, shall we say, 4 wickets here. You would say they got every chance of winning. They've still got 8 chances.
Oh yes, they have. But the likes of Cook and Sams and Harmer have all got 2 more overs up their respective sleeves.
I'm just going to switch to the Cromwell Road end for the next over.
So the South African already has 3 for 11 in 2 overs to his name as he moves in now right arm over the wicket, and that's well, it finishes up going to square leg for a single, but I think he was adopting a reverse sweep stance and then made a bit of a mess of it, but got away with it.
Yeah, caught in 2 minds.
Yeah, at least.
Didn't pay the penalty.
As Harmer moves in again. Bolton's batsman backs away, and it goes through the misfield at wide, but very straight. Fine leg.
Yeah, Sam Cook, I'm afraid. Normally you can put your house on him. Fielding very well. It's not his first mistake in the field either. He's just not quite on his game. He did prove very expensive in the Gloucestershire game 2 days ago, which is totally unlike him. He went for 45 in just 3 overs, and he's a man who quite rightly has a reputation not only for taking lots of wickets, but keeping the runs down.
Yeah, it's Harmer to Coles. Appeal for LBW against the batsman, but doesn't meet with the approval of the umpire. It bounces off for a leg by.
Yeah, I think Harmer fancied that one, but not so. And 88 for 6, needing 164. We're halfway through the 12th over.
As Harmer moves in again, and bowls to Hudson. Prentice works that away on the onside, but more or less straight to the fielder. So it's a dot ball.
Yeah, Harmer may turn out to be the difference tonight, because we know he's got his hat-trick, but he's not easy to get away.
Moves in now and bowls. And, what a catch that is. Or is it? Yes, it is. A brilliant catch. You can think of any superlative you like, but it might not be good enough. But that was diving away to the fielder's right-hand side.
Tom Wesley.
Yep, low down. A la all the best goalkeepers, and whereas they're usually looking to sort of parry it round the post, Tom Wesley held on to it. That's his second catch. The first one was a dolly straight to him off Papara, but that was one of the catches. Well, as I said earlier on, regarding the return catch to Lawrence, if they replayed that a few times, then viewers can fully appreciate what a bit of athleticism that was. It was good enough to get to it, but then so many times when the fielder's done all that to get to it, it doesn't stick, understandably, but the ball did stick, and the hosts are 88 for 7.
Yeah, Hudson Prentice there on the reverse sweep. Thought he got the ball past Wesley for 4. Brilliantly caught, literally millimetres off the ground.
Yeah, brings Carter to the wicket, who just pushes forward, and he's picked up a single. They'll look for a second, but as has happened so many times in both innings,
frustrated because they can't get him away, so they play a risky shot which could easily have brought 4 runs, but a great bit of fielding. You couldn't say all the Essex fielding have been outstanding, but 2 or 3 key bits have been. It's going to be Dan Lawrence back in the attack at the sea end as Harmer alternates his bowlers with great dexterity as this ball is flicked round the corner for just a single. In fact, just waiting to see that there was a bit of bat on that, and there was, and the score goes to 90 for 7 in 12.1. But Simon Harmer has really rotated his bowlers to the limit really here. He's used 3 spinners, himself, Critchley and this man Dan Lawrence, and all of them have got a wicket. In Harmer's case, 4 of them. And ball played out to deep mid-wicket for a single. Score moves along to 91 for 7 in 12.2. So 6 of the 7 wickets have gone to the spinners. The odd one out was Bopara in the first over to Sam Cook. Lawrence sees the ball played a tad uppishly, but not to matter at all, down to his lordship, Simon Harmer, at long off for a single. And 92 for 7 in 12.3, target 164. Lawrence is in, bowls to Coles, who's played pretty well here. Inexperienced player, showing that he knows how to battle, to get a single out to deep mid-wicket, and making it 93 for 7 in 12.4. Coles by now is almost the top scorer, only Tom Clark ahead of him, who was out for 31. He's 30 not out. Meanwhile, the next ball is swept away by Carter for a single, down to deep backward square leg for Kushi, and score 94 for 7 in 12.5. Pretty much single off every ball in this over, but Essex won't mind that, if that were to continue to be the case, as Lawrence is involved. It's smacked back past the bowler for 4. Just a bit too short, that, from Lawrence, and beautifully played away to the boundary by Coles, who thus is the top scorer in the Sussex innings, and quite likely to remain so, because they haven't got many batsmen to come. And 34 not out now to the excellent James Coles. Carter is there with 4 not out, and at the end of that over, 9 runs from it, Sussex in 13 overs are 98 for 7, which all means that they require another 66 in 7.
Yes, so certainly well within their compass, you'd have thought. Well, Harmer's saving one more over up his sleeve, because he got a wicket in that, and it's Critchley, I think, back into the attack. Yes, it is. And that is not another wicket. It bounces just in front of Wesley, but it was well fielded, one of those quite brave bits of fielding, because he had to dive forward and it bounced just a couple of feet in front of him. But even he, who's taken a blinder of a catch tonight, couldn't get hold of that. This is played out into the covers, and they go through for a single. So it's probably going to go almost the whole distance, this game.
100 up.
100 up as Critchley moves in, and that's lofted hard, high, and handsomely for 4 runs. Bounced a couple of times, then over the boundary, just to the leg side of straight, so that it bounced into the boundary board just in front of the sight screen, the black sight screen, way on the northern side of the ground.
60 needed from 40 deliveries.
Critchley in, and this time it's played out to long off for a single.
A nice ebb and flow, because every time you think that Essex have now taken too many wickets for Sussex, they come back again.
They certainly do. That's gone hard, high, and should be out, and is. Caught at the deep, long-on boundary, and is that Carter or Coles? It's Coles who's out, is it? Yes. Number 30. Coles.
Yeah.
Confirmed by Andrews, thank you. So that was really the wicket that Essex, if not desperately wanted, urgently wanted. And the hosts are 105 for 8, with a further 59 needed for victory.
Yeah, Simon Harmer under that one has got coal bucket hands, and it was not a difficult catch. In fact, he's standing out in the distance at long on, and I'm not sure he moved at all in taking that. It was almost proverbially straight down his throat. So a second wicket for Critchley. Again, it's spin that's taking the wickets. 7 of the 8 to fall, and I give Essex, who in the past I feel have not given spin as many overs as they should have done in T20 cricket, credit to Simon Harmer. It was almost bound to be the case that he wouldn't be guilty of that, and his spinners, including himself, have done him proud tonight.
Yes, they have indeed.
Good knock, though, from Coles.
It was a very good knock, especially in the circumstances he found himself, seeing the carnage at the far end as Critchley moves in and bowls, and that's a bit of an out-to-in shot. He sort of played across it, but skewed it out to long off for a comfortable single. So a good over from Critchley, especially not that economical, although fairly, conceded 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think, but the fact that he got rid of Coles was a vital blow from the Essex point of view, and of course from the Sussex point of view as well.
Yes, he's useful with his leg breaks,
he is.
Critchley, and he provides a nice contrast. That's one of the reasons why Essex were keen to sign him from Derbyshire before the 2022 season. This is his second season with Essex, principally for his batting, but his bowling is useful in all forms of the game, and we're going to see Daniel Sams, who bowled his first overs from the top end, now switching to the C end, and He's on his way here. Bowls, and it's forced square on the offside. They go for a very quick single indeed, but in fact, the fieldsman decides that they were going to get home and doesn't have a shy. And the score to 107 for 18, 14.1. It all means that 35 deliveries remain and another 57 are needed.
At 7.5 and over, we're required we're told, by this excellent scoreboard.
Sams is in around the wicket, bowls, and it's a slower ball and completely deceives the batsman Carter there. He was through with the shot long before the ball arrived. Ollie Carter, and score remaining at 107 for 8 at the end of this over. We will bring Andrew Rayburn back to join me, and the Australian Daniel Sams is on his way again. Bowls, and that's a long way outside off stump. It's not a wide. The batsman again is through the shot too soon. Yes, I think the run weight, Dick, I think it's more like 10 and over than 7.5. I think because they need...
Oh, yes, when it says run rate, it means what score, not what's required. I beg your pardon.
Quite all right. Your grovelling tonight is really quite outstanding, even by your standards.
It's a man who's been married so many years.
Sams is in bowls, and this ball not timed at all, and so much so that it just goes tamely back to the bowler. And Carter he's doing his level best. In fact, if anything, I think he's trying too hard. And for all the effort he's put in, he just can't seem to get Carter off the square in this over. And in fact, so much so that Tamal Mills has gone down to give him the benefit of his extra years and experience.
Yes, the other board, which I should have been looking at, says that the required rate is 10.7.
Sams is in, bowls to Carter, waits for this but can only play it back to the bowler. Terribly frustrating for a young lad doing his best in the game but facing a very experienced one-day bowler in Daniel Sams. Now, Tamal Mills, who's hardly faced anything so far, but he's not a great batsman, but he can hit the ball one heck of a long way. He's a mightily strong man. As Essex supporters know only too well, first county was Essex. Sams is in. Bowls to Carter, who's hit this back, and I don't think that was a bump ball. I think that's a drop from Sams. But in some ways, Carter just had an over of persecution there, really. Just couldn't get Sams away, and I think it was just the one run off the over. Mills has 2, Carter has 10, and 15